G'day there guys, it's your main man Markee, and welcome back to, would you guess it, another episode of r/Am I the A-hole. Now if you love this content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbecue, and enjoy the bloody good content. Thank you. Our first post is by user 33_5×333, titled, Am I the a-hole for filing a complaint against my doctor after she gave my mum my medical information? Now, I want to start by saying that I, female 25, don't have the best relationship with my mum. I have an older sister, and growing up, my mum always tended to control me and tried to override any decisions I make, saying that I was young and naive, and she always knew better. I cut contact with her for a few months after she tried to get involved in my marriage. My husband and I have been together for 3 years, and he's always been telling me to get more gentle with my mum. Look, I had a miscarriage a few days ago. It's devastating, and I really thought it'll get easier, but I'm still feeling excruciating pain and frustration. We were happy and excited, but all that disappeared suddenly, and it was hard for me to take because I thought everything was fine. I didn't tell anyone, especially since I'm currently dealing with some health issues. I didn't tell anyone in my family. My husband promised not to tell until I'm ready. My mum kept asking me questions and brought up my pregnancy constantly, and my answers were short, because I didn't want her to know since she'd call everybody and let them know. She's always like this, and that's why I tend to keep things private. I decided to not visit for a couple of days, hoping that she would stop asking questions. Then I found out on Facebook that my mum announced my miscarriage on her page, and I didn't know about that. I was shocked, I freaked out when I started getting calls from all my family members, and I have no idea how many people knew about it. I was so mad to the point of shaking. Everyone kept berating me for not telling them. I called my mum and I yelled at her. She defended herself, saying that she was just looking for support, and that I should have told her about it the first time that she asked, what was wrong? I asked her who told her, and she said she had a talk with my doctor, but I shouldn't be mad because she's my mum and she had the right to know what's going on. I argued with her about getting involved in my personal life and disregarding my feelings and catching me off guard like that. I went to the doctor and I lashed out at her for releasing my private medical information to my mum and causing me to deal with everyone asking why I was hiding my miscarriage from them, even though I was just waiting for the right time. I told my doctor that I was going to file a complaint against her the same day since she didn't respect my privacy, and decided to give my mum information about my medical records. My mum heard and started berating me, saying that it wasn't the doctor's fault, and that she was a friend of hers that she knew years ago, but I didn't know about it. She said that I went too far, and I acted like my family were strangers. She said that she's my mum, and I didn't need to overreact like that. All I needed was time and space. Now I have to deal with all this stress, and I'm a mess right now. And my brother texted me a few minutes ago, and said that he wanted to come over and talk to me. He was the first to call me, and berated me, and said that I was being hostile towards everyone for no reason. I haven't replied to his text yet, but I don't want to see anyone right now. I can't take one more word from them. Yeah, I think this anger is completely justified. It doesn't matter if the doctor is a family friend. It doesn't excuse them handing over your personal information, and then it doesn't excuse your mum from posting about it on Facebook. I've never seen it myself, but I would be embarrassed and ashamed of anyone that does that. How is posting about your daughter's miscarriage something appropriate to do on Facebook if you don't have permission to do it? Like, for God's sake, do people just remove their brains when it comes to Facebook sometimes? I do not understand these people. Not the a-hole OP, I'm so sorry this happened to you. The Empress is in says, not the a-hole. They violated HIPAA. Report them. Nothing else matters. This is a violation of law, and you are suffering hardship due to it. And OP replies, I'm dealing with enough already, and I didn't need all this stress and anxiety. I stopped talking to everyone about it because they kept saying that I was in the wrong and I should have told them about it. Sweetie, they can claim the sky is green for all it matters. They are still all in the wrong. Everyone that dared chastise you for not publicly discussing something deeply personal, I've been through it, I know, can all take a flying leap. Every last one of them. You don't need this nonsense, and every one of them owes you an apology. Also, you need a new doctor that you can trust, and to report yours to HIPAA. To protect the others they will do the same to, because it will happen 100%. Not to mention that, in some families, this could have put you in real danger. This doctor is not fit to practice, it is your moral duty to report them immediately. Not the a-hole. As a matter of fact, if what you were saying is 100% true, your doctor broke HIPAA violation, and that is grounds for termination at the very least. Not the a-hole. What the hell is wrong with your doctor? She's friends with Mummy Dearest. Apparently patient confidentiality is not important to her, and she needs to find a new profession. Report, sue, and no contact with Mum or anyone calling to yell at you for not sharing your private medical information at their demand. Not the a-hole, in case it's not 1,000,000% obvious. And what do you guys think about this one? Have you personally seen news like this pop up on social media before? Was it taken down? Is it still up? And what would you do in this circumstance? I'd love to know down in the comments. Our next post is by user ThrowRA273152, titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to host Christmas after my mother woke my sleeping babies? Due to a bunch of soap opera level bullshit, I, 26 female, am raising 2 babies, a boy and a girl, who were born within 2 months of each other, and only one of them is biologically mine. My ex-husband is the father of both, and he stuck around long enough to give me custody before he effed off to be irresponsible somewhere else. The babies are 6 and 8 months old. Despite the aforementioned bullshit, I love them both with all my heart. However, taking care of 2 kids alone is going about as well as you'd expect. I'm tired, I'm stressed, and despite being on maternity leave until the new year, I'm still getting emails and texts from coworkers asking me questions. Plus, I had to move to a new place 4 months ago with 2 newborns in tow. Again, entirely alone because I didn't want to break isolation. Anyway, Christmas is coming up, and it's my turn to host this year. I was very hesitant at first, and even refused, but they convinced me on some conditions. It's just my parents and my brother, and that's it. No +1, no extended family. Everyone is taking precautions, which began at the start of this month. And if they so much as sniffle, I reserve the right to kick them out. Christmas Day be damned. Mum came over today to bring me some items for Christmas. Nothing ridiculous, just a tablecloth, some of the food that will keep for a week, and some candles. She told me she was on her way, and I responded to say that the kids are asleep, which I stressed was a big thing, because they never sleep at the same time. So she needs to be almost inhumanly quiet, and she said that was fine. I got to the door, let her in, started to put stuff away, and she asked to use the bathroom. I said sure, and reminded her where it was, and off she went. Within a minute, I hear both babies crying. I leg it upstairs, and Mum is stood there looking guilty as sin. I gesture for her to leave the room, which she does, and put the 8-month-old back to sleep, but can't do the same for the 6-month-old. So I take her downstairs, and Mum is still there. Mum begins to apologize, saying she just wanted to hold them, as she's never actually met them. I say that's fine, but she has just made me realize what a spectacularly bad idea hosting Christmas is, or having visitors in general, and gave her the stuff back and saw her out. This has caused a whole shit show. My family is saying that I have to reconsider hosting Christmas, saying it's inconsiderate of me to change plans at such short notice, seeing as they've changed their work schedules in order to isolate, and that my parents can't host on such short notice. I've told them to figure it out. They then asked that I come to Christmas at their place, and I've refused. And they're saying that that's also unreasonable, and calling me an arsehole. So, the question is, am I the arsehole for refusing to host Christmas after my mother woke up my sleeping babies? And in this instance, I don't think you would be. I think she wasn't even able to respect not waking the kids up. She said she's going to the bathroom. You said don't, upset the kids. And look what happened. Even without everyone else in the house, it's not deathly quiet. You've got 2 6 and 8-month-old children in your house. Can you not imagine how much crying there is going to be at Christmas? Because they're not going to understand what all these weird smells, voices, people are. It's all this interruption. I personally would not want to go to a Christmas party where there are 2 screaming babies going on the entire time. It just does not sit well with me. Not only do I not like the noise, I would not like that I am disturbing these babies that are just trying to, chill and have a good time. That seems to be the case here. I feel like I'm not over-dramatizing this one. Therefore, I can't blame OP for shutting that down. I can see why they wanted to host in the first place, but reality hits at the darndest of times, doesn't it? I'm gonna go with not the a-hole. Burbalooge says, not the a-hole. Your mum knows better than to bother sleeping children. And maybe it's just my upbringing, but the fact that no one came by to help you is insane. Mum did offer to come by once, immediately after I gave birth, but I said no, as I wanted to be alone with my kids for a bit. No one has offered since then. Honestly, I'm sure you're doing a good job, but at least in Indian culture, an older woman you know and trust shows up. My aunt flew across the world when my youngest sister was born, and my grandma did the same when my other sister was born. I really love the connection I have with my family through that. It takes a village, etc. Obviously, your ex is a hot piece of trash and exiled from the village, but it's good to have people around you when you need help or just support. It depends on what kind of support that is. I've known way too many people who love to shove their opinions in your face. You gotta eat fatty pig feet to have milk. No showering for a month. Nah. You can only eat braised pork belly and a fuck ton of rice every meal. No, this is how to burp them. Let me show you the way to put them to sleep. Why are you drinking iced soda? It's not good for the milk. Lol? With those people, I'd rather be alone. Why are you hosting Christmas this year? Because it's your turn? Do they realize you have 2 babies? Do they not care? This is completely ridiculous. They should be caring for you and doing all the hosting, not the a-hole. I'd legit fight someone for waking up 2 infants. I would have seen red and not be able to control my mouth for sure. Your mum is an asshole. Who wakes up a baby? Not the a-hole. You have way too much going on, and clearly people aren't understanding your situation. Not to mention the stress of it all. Throwing off their schedules and, oh yeah, that pesky pandemic thing. Everyone sucks here. Your mother should not have woken the babies, but it does seem like you're repeatedly pushing your family and potential support away, then stating how hard it is to do it alone. OP mentioned in a comment after initially declining at the beginning now, they don't offer. And coming round to wake the babies doesn't paint a helpful picture. We don't know what her parents or family are like pandemic precautions-wise. She might be extremely cautious because she knows they don't follow them and didn't want to risk the babies. I think no one with 2 children that young together would do it alone unless there's a good reason. She must have been pushed to her limits multiple times before now, and yet they are not around. Edit. Seen OP's comment that she's told her mum she's welcome to come round if she isolates beforehand, but her mum has never been able to stick to it and always breaks it. So it's mum's fault she hasn't seen her grandchildren, and unfortunately, not OP's fault that she's not had her support. Our next post is by user Just Call Him Rick, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend it's wrong to call her son Dickie against his wishes? My girlfriend and I have been together 5 years. She has a son, Richard, middle name, who is 10. I've always called him Little Man or DJ as a nickname. His family calls him Dickie. Richard is a family tradition kind of name for them, and most of the men have it somehow. Her dad goes by Dick, also a Richard, and I always cringed when I heard the name because I knew the kid was going to come to hate it when he got older. Well, lo and behold, the shoe has dropped. I'm surprised it took as long as it did. They have half virtual and half online learning this year, and apparently other kids have been teasing him. My girlfriend had a phone conference with his teacher because he got into an altercation at school. He's about to go to middle school next year, so it's just going to get worse, I'm sure. My girl says other kids need to learn to not bully, and she won't change his name just because kids are mean, and she wants him to learn to stick up for himself. Honestly, I don't see that working out too good since sticking up for himself already got him detention once. I talked to him guy to guy after my girlfriend asked me to, and asked what was up with school. He said kids tease him and make him mad over his name being slang for, well, he hadn't even known the other meaning till the kids told him. I said he's going to be at new school for the 6th grade, so he can go by anything he wants then with a clean slate. And I told him Ricky, or Rich, or Rocky, or R, or literally anything could replace Dickie. And he said he just wants DJ, like I call him, and I said okay, let's tell your mom. And she wasn't happy. Long story short, I'm in the doghouse now because what I did was encourage that his name is bad and undermine her because she wanted to teach to ignore the bullies. I told her he has a right to use what name he wants, and hell, I don't even go by my legal name either because people can choose their names, even kids. She pulled the, he's not your kid, he's mine, as if she didn't ask for my help and I haven't helped raise him too. I told her she's being a bully herself by doing something that makes little man upset, but she doesn't see it that way. So, the question is, am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend it's wrong to call her son Dickie against his wishes? And I'd say, no, you are not the a-hole for saying that. I feel like people like to overcomplicate these matters, and it seems like in her head, she has overcomplicated this one. You can't let the bullies win because if you change your name, that means the bullies won. She probably has never been bullied in her life before, or doesn't remember what it's like to be bullied because, Jesus, the effects of it are damning, that's for sure. Yes, it sucks that the name that you like as a mother to this child has to be changed because he wants to change it. You can't force him to not do it just because you don't want it to happen. That's really what this boils down to. Let the man change his name, let him be happy, and not having the threat of being bullied for that. I suck at articulating these things sometimes, but that's really the gist of it here. This mother sucks, and OP is great, in my opinion, for helping him and, not putting him down for being like, oh, you can't change your name? DJ's a sick name, and then when people give you nicknames, you can be like, DJ Rich, DJ Rocky, let's go. He's in the 6th or the 7th grade. That's not cringe. That's more so encouraged at those ages. They'll be like, whoa, that's sick, bro. What Pokemon cards do you open up this week? Let's go. I respect the name DJ, and I respect OP for helping out. Not the a-hole. Now, down in the comments, Kyrian quotes, she wants him to learn to stick up for himself. Oh, so does she mean like when he asks people to call him by his preferred name? Or does he only get to stand up for himself when it's about something she wants? I told her she's being a bully herself. Yup, not the a-hole, and she absolutely is. Kids have the excuse of being kids, she doesn't. She's making a stand, knowing that someone else is the target. Mum can stand back, pretending to be high and mighty, while her kid suffers. And now that the kid's got a chance to get away from all the baggage of his name, she's ready to intentionally make him miserable. I hope she's ready for Rick to tell people his mother is nuts and that his name is Richard, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. The kid hates his nickname. Not even his name. His nickname. And then she asks you to go talk to him without instructions to convince him. So, you did. You found out that he wants to drop his nickname and you're in trouble? What is with people giving nicknames others don't want? Man, not the a-hole at all. That poor kid. She's not the one who got teased, he is. If I were him, I'd stop answering to Dickie and introduce myself by my full name or my chosen nickname only. Not the a-hole. You respected your kid's autonomy and let him decide what he wants to be called. Your girlfriend is the a-hole for saddling the child with that awful nickname, then having the audacity of getting mad at you because you don't want your kid being called something he doesn't want to be called. Edit. Even though you're technically not the dad, you are helping raise a child, which is awesome. Keep being awesome. And our last comment, not the a-hole. Your kid is sticking up for himself by telling his mum that he doesn't want to be called that anymore. Maybe she should start respecting that since she wants him to learn that skill so badly. You're right, she is being a bully, and right now, she's being a bad mum. DJ's a great nickname, and if I were your kid, I'd start refusing to respond to being called anything but that or Richard. And our last post is by user College or Rehabit. What is that name? Titled, Am I the a-hole for not using my daughter's college fund for my stepson's rehab? The title basically sums it up, I suppose. My husband and I have been married for 3 years now. I have a daughter 15 female, and he has a son 24 male. I'm friendly with my stepson, but we aren't close. He has a biological mother who is a perfectly fine woman. I'm not here to take the role of his mom. Now, my late husband, my daughter's father, died when my daughter was 6. We both contributed to our college fund. My daughter's paternal grandparents have also contributed a large amount. Right now, the fund has about $180,000. My daughter is extremely bright, and I'm not just saying that because I'm her mom. I truly believe she has the capacity to go to an Ivy League school, and her teachers have said that she has the potential as well, and I don't want costs to hold her back. Our income would be too high to get any meaningful financial aid, and while there are a few merit-based scholarships out there that she'll be applying to, we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket and hope she gets it when it's so competitive. My current husband and I have separate finances. He doesn't contribute at all to my daughter's fund. My stepson is struggling with a heroin addiction and has stolen money, jewelry, heirlooms, and electronics from us for drug money. I understand that addiction is a disease, and I personally paid for an outpatient detox for him, which cost $1,000, which failed. His father then paid for an outpatient rehab program, which cost $6,500, which also didn't work, because he barely showed up. He promised us he'd do better next time, and he needed another chance. So I split the cost of another $6,500 outpatient rehab program with my husband, which seemed to work during the program, but he relapsed as soon as he got out of it. I've spent so much money, time, and energy, and it hasn't helped at all. My husband and my stepson want to try a 60-day inpatient rehab program, which will cost $30,000. I have absolutely no idea where they were supposed to get the money for that, considering the thousands of dollars that were already spent, and the fact that we no longer had anything of value in our house. They want to use my daughter's college fund, which to me is absolutely off limits. I feel like it's completely unfair to my daughter to punish her for my stepson's addiction, unfair to my late husband and his parents, but frankly, I don't think spending $30,000 will work. My husband thinks I'm an asshole because I'm prioritizing my daughter's education over his son's life, and he believes medical needs come first. He then asked my daughter if she'd be willing to use $30,000 from her fund to pay for her stepbrother's rehab, and she got very quiet and did not answer. He then got very upset with her and said she was being selfish. My daughter later told me that she didn't want to give her stepbrother the money, but she felt so guilty, and I am furious at my husband for emotionally guilt-tripping my daughter like that. Yeah, no kidding, I would be too. That's probably something I would break the relationship over if it was rocky before this point. I'm sorry that your son is addicted to drugs and multiple programs before this haven't worked. What makes you think that this $30,000 program will work? Maybe it's a him problem. I'm sure there are cheaper alternatives out there that he can go to get help. I think it's very unfair on your daughter to be expected to use that $30,000 from her funds. That's not okay to ask. It's just not. I would never ask someone that. I just think it's extremely disrespectful to have asked that. My conclusion here is, I get where the husband is coming from, and I understand he's suffering, and I understand you guys need to do these things together. And a lot of your money is gone right now, and the world is in a crap place. But at the end of the day, there is some things you just don't ask for, even though the money is there. Not the a-hole. And in the comments, Cypher Mac says, not the a-hole. They want to use my daughter's college fund, which to me is absolutely off limits. That's not up to you, them, or anyone. That's your daughter's money in all but name. Your husband paid into it, your daughter's grandparents paid into it, you paid into it for her. Not for some kid that half these people don't know. He then got very upset with her and said that she was being selfish. Why did you allow this? Why are you allowing this to be your daughter's concern? Why is she being put in this position? I get that you're furious, but this is way over the line. This shouldn't be, am I the a-hole for refusing? This should be, so I left this guy because he crossed a line and made my daughter feel accountable for an addict because she wouldn't give $30,000 designated for her future. Addiction is a serious problem, and I'm sorry for your stepson and his dad, but not sorry enough to excuse what they're trying to pull here. Your daughter is not a cash cow for them to raid when it suits. This kid has stolen your money and your property. He's trying to steal your daughter's future. You're right. I should have stopped him immediately. The only reason I've tolerated it so far is because obviously I love my husband, but also because I understand the pain he's in as a parent, and I can't help but be sympathetic when I imagine my daughter in the position his son is in. I would be terrified and cross boundaries as well. I believe that my stepson was a good man before the drugs and could be a good man again. But I just can't sacrifice my own daughter's potential education for that possibility. But the idea of him potentially dying from an overdose one day when I could have helped him is just... I can't even express it. This is the problem for me. You are not being asked to help. In this case, I know you did previously. Your daughter is, and that's not fair. If this was you and your partner taking out a second mortgage, taking a loan or whatever, my answer would be different. My only issue here is that your daughter is being asked to make a sacrifice for this guy. Edit. Thinking on this, your daughter has now been put in this position too. I imagine before now, she never considered that she could help, being 15. Now she knows that she could give money to help, and if she refuses, she might have some guilt if something bad happens. You need to take this decision away from your daughter. It's unfair to give her any reason to feel responsible for the outcome to your stepson. American Girl says, not the a-hole, absolutely. I'll share a personal story. My son was a heroin addict and we spent a lot of money on various rehabs, including what should have been spent for his college. Nothing worked, and eventually we told him that we would no longer be contributing to rehab, bail money, or lawyers. He could sit in jail and enjoy the bologna sandwiches and the public defender. We still loved him, and I allowed him to take showers at my house and eat my food, but that was it. Eventually, he got tired of living like a bum. All he had was his addiction. One day, all on his own, he decided to apply to the local outpatient methadone clinic. They had paperwork requirements. He did them. There were other hoops to jump through, and he fulfilled them. If they said, show up at 5 a.m., he got up early and went. I didn't nag him or remind him. This was all new, encouraging behavior, and I was holding my breath, hoping that he really was serious this time. That was 6 or 7 years ago. He's been off opiates completely for 5 years after slowly weaning off the methadone. Now he works for a federal agency, lives with his non-addict girlfriend, has money in the bank, and applied for and received a pardon from his state for his misdemeanors, which is how he was able to get this job. We let him hit rock bottom and detached from his addiction while still loving him. It could have gone either way. We were just lucky, but he had to climb out of that hole. If your stepson really wants to change his life, it's up to him to do it. Our first post is by user Merry Christmas, I guess, titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my entire family out at 1 AM on Christmas Eve after they showed up unannounced? Merry Christmas, everyone. Throw away because I don't want family drama affiliated with my main account, Lamau. So for some context, I'm 29 male and my husband is 27 male and we have a 2-year-old son. I lost touch with my family in my early 20s after coming out. They reached out right after my son was born, talking about the joys of family and can we reconnect because they want to be grandparents and all. We've been very slowly building our relationship, but they have no concept of boundaries, so it's not been going so well. That's a long-ass story. The only reason they call and visit now is to see the baby and to be salty to me. They live 5 hours away, and they asked me to visit for family Christmas so they can see the baby. I said no, we're in a pandemic. What the hell? They said, well, can we come over and see the baby? And I said no, that's the same thing. They showed up anyway with no notice. My mum, dad, sister, brother-in-law, brother, sister-in-law, their kids, etc. Literally 9 people. Their plan was to stay over and have baby spend Christmas with his cousin to make memories. We live in a 3-bedroom house. Obviously hell no for many reasons. They got here around 1 AM, and I immediately was like, leave. They said it's snowing outside, and night visibility is crap. Where will we go? I said I don't care, just leave. There was a whole fit, and they made my husband cry, woke my baby up, and then the baby cried. They were talking about, it's Christmas Eve. Hell, it's already Christmas now. It's family, you can't do this, where will we go? I kicked them out anyway, and I had to threaten to call the cops, which I admit was dramatic. The baby was up until 5 AM crying, then dancing on our heads. I haven't slept at all, and guilt is setting in a bit because I keep thinking, where would they have gone? There's no hotels on Christmas, are there? It was night, and it was snowing. What if something bad happened? But a part of me is also mad as hell. I keep going back and forth. Maybe it's because I haven't slept at all. And edit, forgot to add. Part of the reason I feel so bad is because they had young kids with them. And I don't like my family, but I don't want something bad to happen to them. Might as well have sucked it up and kicked them out of the morning, but then again, I don't know. I don't think you're the a-hole for this situation. I feel like you made it clear that they are not to come over, and you gave perfectly fine reasons as to why you were not comfortable with that. If these people want to read it as, I don't care what you guys think, we're coming over anyway, we're gonna get in the Christmas spirit, then it's on them for the repercussions of those actions. It's not your fault that they got kicked out. That feels like it's completely on them. They chose to go and surprise you with this, knowing there was a possibility of you saying no and kicking them out, and they didn't have a backup plan. You know what? That sucks, but that's life. They're the ones that need to figure out a backup plan for themselves, and they chose not to. Tough tits, not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Master Manipulation says, not the a-hole. That's a huge boundary stomp and ridiculous expectations. They woke you up at 1 AM, demanding you let them stay the night at your house, and were being disrespectful. What they did was a classic manipulation ploy. After being told no, they put OP in a situation where they believed that he couldn't say no. The coming to visit after OP told them no was obviously on purpose and thought out. Showing up at 1 AM was also deliberate and not accidental. They chose a time that put more pressure on OP to give in. Showing up at 1 AM with young kids was also deliberate, and not accidental. Young kids are the perfect pawns for just no's, because they will always say, but what about the children? To manipulate people. I mean, who would or could stop such boundary stomping when they put themselves in a difficult situation? Late night with nowhere else to go, with young kids. They bet the farm that OP wouldn't say no and were surprised he stood up to them. That wasn't the way it was supposed to go. Their gambit was foolproof. OP needs to understand that real families don't do this to each other and stop feeling guilty for turning those people away. In fact, it's time for OP to go no contact again and prepare for a bunch of FMs. Not the a-hole. A person is never the a-hole when fighting back against boundary stomping, even if it puts the other person in a difficult situation, because 99% of the time, they put themselves in that situation to force their boundary stomping. Darcy Pennell says, "Not the a-hole. You feel bad about turning away the kids they brought because you're a compassionate person. But that's why they brought little kids to your door at 1 a.m. So you'd have no choice but to let them in. They used the kids to manipulate you. You did the right thing." And OP replies, "I didn't even think of it that way. Thank you." Not only were they using those kids as pawns, which is so horrible, but if this had worked, they would know it and do it over and over again. No rational people think that showing up at 1 a.m. when they had been previously told no works. Well, shoot. I'm trying to talk about rational, and there was none of that in that carload. Feel sorry for the kids, but don't give in to the manipulation. You did what you needed to do. The right thing. So now I pass it to you guys. Do you guys think that OP did the right thing in this situation? And if you're in this situation, would you have given in and looked after them and, kind of enabled that behavior, I guess? This would be a hard one for me, because in a situation like that, I would definitely want to look after the kids, and I'd be pissed off that they put me in a hard situation like that. I don't know if I'm the person to have turned down them doing that. I think I know myself well enough, and it depends on the mood that I'm in. Most of the time I probably would be too compassionate and would let them in because I want the kids to be safe, because I would just feel terrible if they're out there driving in the snow and some freak accident happens. That would weigh too heavy on my conscience. But obviously that's not completely likely. It's just more probable than if there were no snow, which is scary. Our next post is by user HumbleAd9507, titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my dad his favorite Christmas memory is one of my least favorite?" So I need to hear from others on this. When I, 21 female, was 8, my mum died. 2 years later, he was married again. That first Christmas after he remarried, I asked my dad if we could spend a few hours on Christmas Eve at the lake that we used to go to every year with my mum, just the two of us. He said sure, but then brought his wife and her 2 kids along, and we spent it together. I was so upset and mad, and it ruined the intention of going. To have one last moment where it felt like it was just the 3 of us. Not really, but it brought a closeness when we went there, just the 2 of us, and I wanted it one last time. I always made it known it wasn't what I wanted, and my dad knew I was mad, but he always talked about how that was one of his favorite Christmas memories, because it brought back our first family Christmas. I always wondered if he was talking like that to try and convince me that I felt the same way, because he always ignored my feelings on it. Anyway, I was talking to him for a little while yesterday, and he brought up the memory again, and I asked him to stop. He told me he didn't know what I meant, and I told him the memories might have been his favorite Christmas memory, but I hated it, and I did not look back fondly on it. He asked me how I could hate the memory of the first Christmas we had as a family with his wife and her kids. I told him because I had wanted one last Christmas memory of just the 2 of us. I said even an hour would have been better, but he ruined it by including them. He said he thought that I understood why they were included, and I said no. He just didn't want to accept that I was mad about it. He told me it was important to cement family bonds, and I told him if I could, I would gladly forget that memory. He got mad and told me that I didn't need to try and shame him for loving that memory. I told him I just wanted him to stop bringing it up to me. He's demanding an apology, and he told me I'm selfish for saying a memory was ruined because we included our family. I told him he would never understand, and I hung up on him. He messaged me after and told me he still wants the apology and for me to get over myself. Am I the a-hole? In this situation, I'm definitely on OP's side for this one. The dad is refusing to be compassionate and seeing this through your eyes, or maybe he is seeing it through your eyes and he's choosing not to care. Either of those situations, if those are, the reality of the situation, are both horrible to me. Just because he has a wife and 2 other kids doesn't mean that the feelings of this first kid don't matter, and he can blow up and say that he wants an apology for ruining the memory of his first kid. He is ruining the memory of this first kid. Something that so easily could have been a precious and special moment for OP, yet he chose to go the hard route and involve the others in there, just spoiling the memory for OP, knowingly doing it as well. He knew that he was going against OP's wishes. I have no remorse or pity for the father, and all of that is for OP. I feel terrible for them that he just doesn't care like this. He's the selfish one for denying that the memory was ruined for OP, because at the end of the day, a lot of the things we have are memories, and he's destroying that for OP. That's not fair. Not the a-hole. Seemingly okay 44 in the comments says, not the a-hole. He's not listening to you. He understands your feelings, but doesn't want to deal with the possibility that he screwed up. He actually owes you an apology. Clearance Denied 324 replies, I read a great meme on Instagram. Communication doesn't make a great relationship, comprehension does. He understands and comprehends, he just doesn't care. I stated those exact words to my family when they decided to continue going out to bars, their extracurriculars, hanging out with friends, and knowing that both my husband and son are high risk. Still haven't seen them, and I rarely communicate. The pandemic has allowed me to put the necessary distance needed. Good luck, and obviously not the a-hole. The only good thing about this pandemic is that people have shown their true colors. Now you know you can't trust your family. Down in the comments further, Webupomo says, not the a-hole. Mum here of a blended family. I made the mistake of doing something similar. I thought it would bring my kiddos joy to be included, and it didn't at all. They were very upset. I didn't know how upset until years later. Eventually they told me, and I apologized for hurting them. His intent wasn't to hurt you, but that was the result. It took courage to tell him your perspective, and whether or not he sees it is perfectly okay to tell him that something he brings up repeatedly is painful to you. That's a healthy boundary that you set. He should value how his actions and continued actions make you feel. And Little Oreo95 says, not the a-hole. He didn't care about your feelings, only about his. He, as your father, had the duty to protect you and to try to understand you. These were really difficult times to you, and he didn't care. He preferred to bring new family instead of respecting your wishes, and had quality time with her daughter. You have nothing to apologize. You asked him to stop bringing this memory to you, and he didn't want to. Then, you explained to him why you didn't like it, and he got mad instead of trying to understand your feelings. He is the one with the problem here, and the one who should apologize to you. You were a kid making a really difficult transition in your life, but he didn't care about it. He didn't care about her feelings then, and still doesn't care now. Maybe he can't tolerate the guilt that would flood him if he accepted her perspective. A lot of rejection of others' feelings is because we don't believe we can tolerate our own feelings if we accepted the other person's perspective as valid. Consider inserting an ounce of compassion in with your well-deserved anger, not the a-hole. And our last comment, Classic Rock Panda says, everyone sucks here. Both of you disregard each other's feelings, are selfish, and keep grudges over decades. Surprised it took me so long to find this comment. Everyone is always quick to demonize parents that remarried. OP, everyone sucks here. I get what you wanted, but there is more to this situation than just feelings of one person. By claiming that one is the a-hole for disregarding someone's feelings, you have to realize that you can't do that by disregarding other people's feelings. It's about mutually understanding them and finding a way to coexist with them. Opie doesn't like the memory, but Dad does. Why should Dad have to act like he doesn't? How is it any more fair to him to have to act like the memory doesn't exist? After a decade, that's a long time to hold on to something that had layers. Opie is a bit of an a-hole for expecting the father to leave his second wife and stepchildren on their first Christmas together. Not the first Christmas after the mother died, the first Christmas after he remarried. There were other years to go to the lake on Christmas Eve and seek closure. What kind of message would that have sent to the new members of their family? Welcome to the family. However, we don't want you there for this moment of our Christmas together. No offense, but y'all just aren't worth putting a little effort and understanding into on the holiday season quite yet. Maybe next year. We all know that if they had left the stepchildren and wife behind, and they were writing their POV on this, the OP would have been lambasted for being selfish and trying to exclude new family members. I've seen it happen. I get that OP wanted a specific memory, but the fact was, her father remarried and now had additional responsibilities in a wife and stepchildren. I could understand being super upset if OP had wanted to do something like this before the marriage, but after the marriage, the new family dynamic is in place, and trying to cut out members during holidays and such starts to border on being a tad selfish to their feelings. I think the major issue here is that Opie and their father are holding on to grudges and not communicating with an understanding of each other's feelings, and are only concerned with their own feelings being the ones heard and validated and respected. A part of me wonders how the stepfamily feels about all this drama. Can't be a nice Christmas for them, knowing that their first Christmas as a family is a hated memory causing family drama at yet another Christmas. Has anyone thought about their feelings? Because if I was them, I'd give the other two their wish of a Christmas alone together until they stopped making us the instrument of their dysfunction. I do agree with everything you said, as an adult. But Opie is only 21 years old, and I can see this being the perfect age to address her childhood traumas, which the situation definitely is. If Opie is reading this, I want her to know that her feelings are totally valid, and that this confrontation was bound to happen sooner or later. She should be understanding of her father's position, but she should also address the pain she felt as a child. Apologies for this super long story and comment section there. Once I stumbled on that everyone sucks here, I was like, they've got a point here. And this all just kind of spoke to me. I like to try and bring different nuanced perspectives into these stories, and I feel like this is a perfect example of it. I kind of agree with everything everyone said so far. Situations like this are messy and disruptive, and there's never really a perfect answer to any of these situations. I feel like the childhood trauma had to be dealt with eventually and confronted, and yes, this is a messy and bad way to go about it, but what other times would be a good way to go about it? When is it not messy to confront something that is traumatic? I guess a situation like therapy would be the right way to go about it, but even in that room, it is messy and traumatic because you're dealing with a trauma. I guess that's all I have to add to this one. Let me know you guys' perspectives down in the comments. Our next post is by user Not Random, titled, Am I the a-hole for stealing a prize? So I was in the supermarket this morning, Christmas Eve. They have some Christmas gift prizes at the moment, based on what number customer you are that day. I was in the queue with my daughter, and I forgot an item, so I asked my daughter to wait in the line while I went back to get it. When I returned, the woman who had been standing behind me was now standing in front of my daughter. When I asked my daughter, she said the woman pushed past her after I had left. I usually wouldn't care, but it just seemed petty to push past a kid like that and skip the queue. I decided to politely say that we were in the queue first, and that I had just left the queue for a minute, but that my daughter was still in the queue holding our place. This went back and forth for a minute until I just let it go. No point arguing with a moron. It came to her turn and she paid for her items and then started packing them. As she was packing, I moved forward when music started playing and the cashier said that I was the winner of the day. I couldn't believe it. The manager came down and said we had won a Nintendo Switch, a gift card for the store worth €250, and 10 games. I couldn't believe it. This is where I was called an a-hole. The woman who skipped us started complaining that she was supposed to have won, that we let her go ahead, and that the prizes were actually hers. We explained what happened, but she called us liars and started crying. The manager said he couldn't do anything except check the cameras, but they didn't have any audio. He said that because we were the actual 250th customer, we would get the prizes regardless. So, were we the a-hole? Should we have given her the prizes? My wife said I'm not, and I agree, but my daughter felt kinda bad afterwards because the woman cried. I think it's fair in this situation that you guys are the winner. You had your place in line stolen by as you said, a moron when you went to go grab another item. There was no point arguing with her because she wasn't going to change her mind. To me, she sounds like an entitled asshole, and she got what she deserved in this instance. If she really wanted to win that, she would have been counting the people in line and pushed in front of them, but she didn't, and this was pure coincidence. She didn't deserve that prize, she wasn't in the right place for it, tough tits, that sucks. Not the a-hole OP. Edit. So most people have said not the a-hole. I'll happily take that. It was mainly the fact that she cried that gave me cause for concern. In regards to the prizes and lessons, I explained to my daughter why the woman cried, and one of the replies gave a great suggestion, and I went with that. She kind of understood, but I'm not sure if she got it fully. She understands that crying doesn't get you what you want, and it isn't a tool to manipulate people. She also understands that when you do something bad, there are consequences, so I think it was a good lesson for her. She wrapped the Switch and games and gave them to her sister for Christmas. Her sister was so overjoyed that she wasn't much interested in what Santa brought. She's been playing it for about 2 hours now. She played Kirby for a short while, and then started Zelda. She's really into Zelda, even though she can't do too much. Thanks for all the replies, and have a Merry Christmas, everyone. Now, in the comments, Vanished Truth says, not the a-hole. This is a great time to teach your daughter that sometimes people use tears to manipulate us, and we have to not let it work. That's a good point. I'll make sure to bring that point up. Not just that, but the lady got what she asked for, meaning she was in the position that she really wanted. Cole De Rio says, not the a-hole. She literally jumped in front of you and refused to move back when you told her. Play stupid games, don't win Switch prizes. Minor Vaz Biscuit Tin says, not the a-hole at all. That's what we call instant karma. Enjoy the new Switch and have an awesome holiday. Thanks. I've never won anything in my life, so it felt fantastic. Our daughter is going to give it to her sister as a Christmas gift because she's not much into gaming. Merry Christmas. Tree-shaped heart says, so the woman was both ahead of you and behind you in line? She's Schrodinger's a-hole. OP, on the other hand, is not the a-hole. Congrats on the sweet stash. Schrodinger's a-hole. That's the best thing I've seen on this sub. Love it. Would give you an award if I had one. And So Many Whippets says, F no. Had she not shoved a child out of the way, she would have won, but she did. I would have rubbed it in her face. Oh, look at all this crap you would have won had you not been a D-bag to a child. Maybe you should try to, holds up the prize, switch your attitude. Ha! I would have followed her singing about this stuff, and yes, I'm an a-hole. Enjoy your prizes. Our first post is by user, dunno, they deleted their account, titled, Am I the a-hole for celebrating my anniversary despite what happened at my wedding? So, my husband and I had our wedding last year. The venue was beautiful and bordered a lake. Unfortunately, during the reception, one of the young children snuck away from their parents and decided to go for a swim, despite not being able to. This was tragic and devastating, and obviously cut the day short. We haven't really spoken to the parents since then, as we weren't close to them, aside from seeing them on holidays, which haven't happened this year. We are still Facebook friends though. When our first anniversary came, I made a post celebrating our anniversary with a few wedding photos. I didn't think anything of it until the comments came flooding in. I woke up to 30 comments and 15 missed calls. The top comment was from the mother of the child, who was outraged about it. She wrote a very long comment about how my post was disrespectful of the tragedy that had happened that day, and how dare I post that and not mention her child, and of course talking to her first. 30 comments later, and it was clear that the entire family had clearly started to take sides in a battle that I didn't realize I created. As of today, we're at 150 comments. My friends and my parents are involved too. Half of his family is screaming for me to take it down, apologize to the parents, and show more respect, possibly by even celebrating our anniversary on a different day. Some of the family think that we should still be able to celebrate our anniversary on the actual day, but just keep it offline to keep the peace. I don't think I did anything wrong with my post, and I feel like we should be allowed to celebrate our anniversary just like anyone else. I'm not celebrating the tragedy, I'm celebrating my wedding. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I have changed the post to only be visible to me and deleted all comments to try and stop the arguing. But from the email we just received, those comments were just a symptom of a larger problem. My mother-in-law sent us an email with, from what I can tell, roughly 3/4 of my husband's family CC'd on it. His parents, grandparents, and the parents of the child are not only in the different day camp, but they're also demanding a second wedding. According to them, they've kept their silence for so long due to shock and being distracted by everything else going on this year, but that they feel that because of what happened, we aren't really married yet in the family. They understand that weddings are expensive, so they, the husband's parents, offered to completely pay for this second wedding that will be the real wedding in his family's eyes, and because it may be a year or two before this can be done safely, they will tolerate us living in sin indefinitely due to these circumstances. My husband hates arguing with his family, and I'm not sure how I would even approach this with my family without being laughed out of the room. So now we need to talk about what to do with this. Edit 2. I've never had this many calls in my life. My husband and I have tried to read through this, and have gotten a chance to actually talk this out. We've avoided the subject for a long time because it's not an easy thing to think about, and it's not like this year hasn't had stresses of its own. He agrees that while something does need to happen, it is a priority that they start and continue to acknowledge that we are in fact married. I've had a conversation with my parents at least, who were exactly as they were always. But they are now aware of the full situation, and while they still would not support a full second wedding, they understand that I have an exceptional situation, and so something exceptional needs to happen. I replied to my mother-in-law only to a group Zoom call with us, my parents, my husband's sister-in-law, to set up that sets up all of their technology things, which will happen later in the day. I feel like I should address some things. 1. I did send condolences and attended the funeral. By not speaking, I meant since the funeral. I mistakenly thought that that would be implied. 2. I am not heartless. I was trying to avoid the rules with a euphemism, and it's not an easy day or thing to talk about. I was trying to keep things to just what happened, which I can see coming across very strange over text. I'm also aware that I write very formally, but that's not something I can change. 3. The pictures and caption didn't reference the wedding itself. There is no lake visible in the pictures. I only used ones that had just my husband and I in them, and I've sent pictures of just the bridal party before. I never have or will post pictures of the reception. And 4, my husband and I are looking for ideas on how to fix this. This is a really hard subject to tackle, this one. I think just, this is too much for me to talk about. I'm just going to go with an everyone sucks here for this. I don't agree with the actions from either sides of this argument, but I can definitely see why both did it, and I feel like a lot of people are in a lot of pain right now. Perhaps this isn't a normal situation to go judging people for. I think this is a give them advice, this is really messed up kind of situation. Just gonna leave it at that. Everyone sucks here. Superfast Mama says, everyone sucks here, but for crying out loud, take the post down. On one hand is a family with a dead child facing the 1-year anniversary of their loss. Unimaginable pain. On the other hand is your need to have people comment on how pretty your wedding was and to tell you happy anniversary. Their pain far outweighs your need for likes. Why you didn't block the family of the dead child from your post is beyond my ability to comprehend. As soon as you saw that it was causing pain, you delete the post. Of course, you can celebrate your anniversary all you want, just not visible to these people who have a dead child. Show compassion. I have to agree here. We weren't that close isn't exactly a great excuse for ignoring that someone who will see this post lost their child during this event. Quote, I don't live on Facebook and only really post for events and for Messenger. Also this is what OP wrote in the comments. They aren't even very active on Facebook, but needed to post a memory of this particular event. Okay, with the benefit of the doubt, they may not have realized that this would have upset the parents, even though I find that hard to believe, and they aren't familiar with the option of making the post visible for only a certain group of people. But after they refused to take it down, that's where OP became the a-hole. I cannot understand how OP thought this would be okay. It shows a total lack of empathy and awareness. She should have removed the post and apologized immediately. How could you not associate your wedding with the death of a child every single year? So yes, OP is the a-hole. As a kid born on 9/11, am I allowed to celebrate my birthday? It's not about it being on the same day. It's about it being the same event. You're comparing apples and oranges. It's more like if you had a birthday party in the bottom floor of the towers on that day. The towers came down, and you and your closest friends escaped, but somebody else who attended your party did not. Then, 1 year later, you post pictures of last year's party with some words about how much fun you had and how great it was, with no mention of the person or people that died at your party. You're the a-hole? Something awful happened at your wedding. It wasn't your fault, but it's something that you have to deal with. I'm very sorry that you will never be able to have a normal anniversary, but that's a small burden compared to having to deal with the loss of a child. Those that say you should just celebrate privately are absolutely correct. Do not put anything celebratory where the grieving parents can see it. People have been celebrating anniversaries for centuries before Facebook existed. You'll survive without making public announcements of your love for your friends to see. Okay, I think that that changes my opinion to everyone sucks here there. Jesus Christ. I'm not sure if anyone that went to the wedding wants to see those pictures though. I don't think that blocking the parents from seeing the post would have done much good. I feel like as soon as you see those photos, you're reminded that a child drowned at this event, and that's just absolutely tragic. I'm gonna go with you're the a-hole for this one. I feel like that should never have been posted. Our next post is by user JavaJipperfoot, titled, Am I the a-hole for not paying for my neighbor's dog's child support? Yes, you read that right. This story is going to sound ridiculous, especially with that story from yesterday about the dogs cheating, but I assure you this isn't a shitpost. My neighbor's dog recently got pregnant, and she claims my dog did it, which is likely because her dog often escaped into my yard, and she lets her dogs roam around it. It's annoying because her dog shits in my yard. Well, now that she's pregnant, she's pissed because hers was a purebred, and she wanted to breed it. She says she's entitled to financial compensation, and I'll have to pay child support for the pups, as it'll cost her to take care of them. I laughed my ass off and said fat chance, and no way in hell I'm paying for her dog's child support, and this is the dumbest shit I've ever heard of. She's threatening legal action, and I'm pretty sure she can't do anything. She did nothing to stop her dog from entering my yard and often encouraged it. She just assumed my dog was neutered. She can't prove my dog impregnated hers, and lastly, I don't think child support works for dogs. I agree with all of these statements from OP. I feel like just because it's a purebred does not give you rights for compensation of any kind. I've never heard of compensation for dogs being pregnant. That's just something that you deal with. I think this woman is just searching for any excuse she can to get money out of these people, knowing that she's screwed up and she wants someone to yell at because she's like, "Grr, no, it can't be me, it's the kids that's done this, for sure. Old man yells at cloud, that's crazy." I agree with everything OP's done here. I think they should continue to tell them to piss off. Good stuff, OP, not the a-hole. Royally Okie says, "Not the a-hole. This is looking interesting. Do you get half the profits when she sells the puppies?" The bargain is strong in this one. Off-brand Yoda, aka yogurt. I don't think owners who care for their dogs actually make much money off selling puppies. I looked into recently because I have a dog that used to be used for breeding. Quality vet care for mum plus puppies, especially if delivery is complicated, can be pricey. And on top of that, there's food, meds, and around-the-clock care needed for the newborn puppies. If they pay for sperm to keep genetics healthy, that's $1,500 to $2,000. They need to do genetic testing on mum and dad to make sure they're not passing down any harmful traits, and that isn't free either. Per hour, they make almost nothing when you subtract the actual costs. It's not a profitable business model for the most part. Now, puppy mills and shitty breeders who abuse the dogs, they make bank. My point is that after food, vet care, meds, and time spent caring for the dog, she's likely going to break even selling the mutts, if she intends to care for her dog well. But she sounds like an arsehole who lets her dogs free roam, so she might just be someone that does the minimum and then lists the puppies for something ridiculous like $1,500 on Craigslist. Is dog abortion a thing? I'd pay for that just to spare that poor mama dog, on the condition she be spayed after. Not the a-hole. If she wanted her dog to breed with specific other dogs, she should not have let it roam free. Also, what's with the "it was a purebred" bullshit? It's not like the dog's genes are now altered. If it breeds with another purebred dog of the same race, the result will be purebred puppies. I know it's a thing in the breeding world, but it's stupid as hell. I think she's referring to the fact that there is a maximum number of litters a female dog can have, and now one of those litters will be less profitable because they won't be purebred. She's still clearly the asshole here though. Everyone sucks here. New to your pets, people. Yep, both are the a-hole for leaving their pets unfixed. This really depends on where they live. For all we know, Opie's dog could be an extremely well-bred dog that may be bred in the future, responsibly. Maybe he's living in an area where dog overpopulation isn't a problem and is responsible with his dog. I live in the Netherlands, and a huge amount of people here don't spay and neuter their animals, but they are responsible with them. There's actually so few unwanted dogs here that they are often adopted sight unseen from other countries. Not neutering your animals doesn't automatically make you a bad owner. Letting your intact animal roam free, especially a female in heat, does. Opie's dog was in his own yard. This is in no way his fault, not the a-hole. And what do you guys think of that one? Do you have any strong opinions on breeding dogs and the purebred versus apparently mutt argument that we have going on here? I think I'm going to keep with my defense on the not the a-hole, although I think it's, practical to have your dog neutered because my chihuahua wouldn't stop peeing all over my house territorially. And after he did that, I noticed he put on a little bit of weight and he stopped peeing like that. So for me, it was a net positive all round once he was neutered. What's your guys' experiences on this one, and what do you think? Who's the a-hole in this story and why? Tell me down in the comments. And our last post for the day is by user Kip Trello, titled, "Am I the a-hole for locking my roommate's girlfriend out of my room and my bathroom?" So I, 21 male, share an apartment with another guy, John, 22 male. John started bringing his girlfriend Macy around a couple months ago, which I didn't have no problem with. She'd just stay here a couple of nights a week. Problems started happening over a month ago. Macy came to my room once and asked if she could use my bathroom. The apartment has a bathroom in each individual room because John's an effing mess. I've been in there before and I agree. He never cleans it, tub is stained full of hairs, streaks of piss on the toilet seat, smells like crap, and looks as bad as men's restrooms at a public park. I kinda wish I never let her. After that, whenever she was there, she'd ask if she could use my bathroom or straight up go when I'm not there. How did I know? I started noticing toilet paper balled up in my trash bin. My ex used to do this too when she changed her tampon, so I knew right away. Then she would literally use my shower when I'm not there because I also started seeing like these long-ass hairs stuck on the shower tile. Not only that, I work night shifts, so until late afternoon I'm sleeping in my room. She would wake me up to ask if she could use the bathroom. After I started saying no, she just started sneaking in. I'm a heavy sleeper, but a couple times I did catch her and she apologized, but it's because she can't stand using John's bathroom. I'd tell her to tell him to clean it then, and problem solved, but she says he promises he will, then never does. I'm already irritated with this and don't want her continuing going into my bathroom. So I went and got a lock for my room. A few days ago, John was pissed with me. Turns out, while I was sleeping, she kept knocking on my door trying to go in, but the lock kept her out. Anyways, she needed to pee really bad and John was already using the bathroom and had the, runs. So yeah, I guess she was banging on my door but couldn't hear because I was knocked out and also had my headphones on. She ended up having a small accident because she couldn't hold it in any longer. Because of that, she got mad at John, so now he's mad at me. I told him why I got the lock, because I don't want his girl coming into my room whenever she wants to use the bathroom. It's weird, and she leaves her own mess too. Still thinks I was a dick for getting the lock in the first place, and doesn't think it's such a big deal for her to use the bathroom because it's not like she snoops in my room. I mean, I don't know, sometimes I'm not there. Also dramatic according to him to go through all that trouble. Macy is giving me the side-eye whenever she's there now, and says I didn't have to be like that with her. So yeah, I didn't mean for her to have an accident, and I don't think I'm overdoing it by getting a lock when I kind of feel like I didn't have another option. I wasn't the a-hole here though, was I? 'Cause they sure as hell are acting like I am. I don't think OP is the a-hole in this instance. I think that they are being gaslit. They're being gaslit by these people. He doesn't want to deal with his problems and he doesn't want to fix the issues that he's causing and in turn fix the relationship with this girl, and she won't clean the bathroom. Like, it's not her job. I feel like this is entirely on him. Regardless, you should have had a lock on your door the entire time. I mean, I don't think it's acceptable to not have a lock when you're living with other people, especially someone who's pulling stuff like this, continuously coming into your room, giving you even more of a reason to have a lock. So their argument on that is just absolutely stupid. I support you in your reign of terror by having a lock on your door, OP. Continue to terrorize these two, you absolute behemoth, you. That's really all I have to say about this one. I don't think OP is the a-hole. I think this man that is arguing with OP needs to suck it up and grow a pair of nuts. Not the a-hole. Saucy Noodle Lover quotes, Macy is giving the side-eye and says I didn't have to be like that with her. You absolutely had to be like that with her. She was going into your room when you weren't around and sneaking in while you were asleep. What a huge breach of privacy. Also, you agreed she could use the bathroom the times she asked for permission. You didn't give her blanket permission to use the bathroom whenever. Not to mention, she wasn't cleaning up after herself. She was expecting you to clean up after her. Also, she should dump your roommate if he's so disgusting that she can't share a bathroom with him. I'm surprised she trusts the cleanliness of his junk. Their issues aren't because you are now enforcing what should be an obvious boundary. Their issues stem from your roommate being a huge slob, not the a-hole. Carrie May says, not the a-hole. I feel sorry for the girl having an accident, but seriously, how did she get in that situation? I've held my pee for hours before, and I've never known a case of the runs to be so constant that he couldn't give her a few minutes to use the toilet. So it sounds like to me she was a bit silly for waiting to be that desperate before trying to access the toilet, and John was being a bit of a dick hogging the bathroom. Rather than arguing with each other, they are projecting their anger at you, which is just ridiculous. You have every right to put a lock on your door and have privacy. Honestly, I think you've had the patience of a saint to put up with your roommate's girlfriend waking you up, sneaking into your bathroom, going into your room and bathroom while you're not there, and leaving a mess behind her. You could have kicked off over any of those issues, and rightfully so. It sounds to me like putting a lock on your door and stopping these shenanigans is forcing them to confront the real issue, John. I am willing to bet that if she is so disgusted at his bathroom and she can't use yours anymore, that it's forced them to confront the fact that John is disgusting and immature and quite frankly needs to sort himself out. He's probably not happy about having to be a grown-up and clean for his girlfriend to keep coming round and for him to get laid. She's probably unhappy about having to confront the issue and realistically stop coming round or break up with him if he won't do it. But in the long run, this is doing them both a favor because he needs to grow up. And OP replies, in regards to the accident, I don't know, I've downed like a gallon of water once and was almost pissing myself too. I don't know how it got so bad for her. Didn't see it happen. Holy shit though, your comment makes sense. I've never actually thought about all that. Like I said, I thought it was just the incident they're mad at. Not the a-hole, John is a pig, Macy is dating a pig. She can use her shower at home or piss in his bathtub if the aforementioned problem happens again. It's nasty anyway, right? Plus, who lets their girl come over without making sure the porcelain throne is squeaky clean? What an animal. Not the a-hole. A grown-ass woman pissed herself just because she won't use her messy boyfriend's bathroom is 100% her fault. And John's fault. They can blame you as much as they like, but you don't have to share your bathroom with anyone. And I think that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. What did you think of these 3 stories that I've shared with you today? I did want to go a little bit longer than normal, so that's why it's kind of stretched out. Usually I like to keep them to 5 minutes, but today was a little bit of fun. Do you think it was reasonable that she chose to piss herself? She could have gone outside and found somewhere to. There's always a sink or a bathtub if you're really desperate to. I can understand how it came to this position, but I can't see why she didn't take any other desperate measures. I feel like, she chose the worst of all worlds. Pissing yourself is like a really stupid thing to have done in this circumstance. Who do you think was the a-hole in this situation? Do you think there was a possibility of an everyone sucks here judgment? Let me know down in the comments below. Our first post is by user Am I the A-hole Drew Wah, titled, Am I the a-hole for sabotaging my little brother's food on purpose? So, my little brother is 18, and I'm 20. I'm staying with my family for the holidays and thought it'd be a nice time, but I forgot that they treat me like a housekeeper. I do almost all the chores, and I don't mind if it's my chores. Obviously, if I notice the dishwasher's full, I empty it. If I cook, I clean up. If I make a mess, I clean up. However, if my little brother makes a mess, he makes me clean up. If I refuse and tell him to do it himself, he tells my parents and they side with him and just bug me until I do it. My brother also asks me to cook for him. He pulls out brownie mix and is like, make this. And I'm always like, sure, I can make it, but you have to help. He gets mad and says, I helped by taking out the box. And when I refuse to make stuff for him or tell him to make it himself, he'll throw a fit and tell our parents. Lately, he keeps asking me to make stuff and I get frustrated going back and forth about why he can't make shit himself or just ask our parents. So I make the food he asks, but I always add stuff he doesn't like. Coincidentally, he hates a ton of stuff that I love to eat. So if he asks for brownies and refuses to help, I put nuts in it. He hates them and I like them. He came over to see the brownies and got mad at me and told me he hated nuts and can't eat the brownies anymore. I just said, too bad. Make it yourself next time or help me and tell me not to put nuts in. I thought he'd learned his lesson to at least help, but he keeps asking for stuff, and I just keep putting stuff in that he doesn't like. He finally got fed up and said he's not eating because I keep making stuff with stuff that he doesn't like. I just shrugged and told him to make his own food then. He told my parents, of course, and they just told me to stop being an asshole and make food for him. It was my last day at home, so I just told them to make food for him if they're so concerned before I left. Now my parents are upset with me, and my brother is angry with me, and I'm wondering if I was too petty. I don't think you were being too petty in this situation. I feel like it was the right amount of petty. It was like a justified petty kind of thing, if that makes sense. If he's not going to help out, he doesn't deserve any of the rewards from something that he wanted. That should just be common sense in this situation, and I don't think this brother has any right to be attacking you when he refuses to help. I'm just going to keep repeating that same point because that's really the gist of the situation here. You had it bang on in your post here, and this brother needs to grow some balls and cook with you. What's so hard about that? Why do people not want to cook with others? If you want something, you go and earn it. You don't just ask them to do it, and there is no trade here. It's got to be a fair trade. Not the a-hole OP. Santigold23 says, not the a-hole. When I was reading, I thought your brother was like 5, then I went back and realized he was 18? Thank God you're out of there. It sounds like your parents have really different standards for the two of you, and much higher expectations on you. I'm guessing this is gender-based, though you didn't mention it. Anyway, I think this is hilarious, and you should consider putting it in r/malicious compliance. Your brother is legally an adult, and certainly old enough to handle making a box of brownie mix, and he's way past the point where he can stand to learn that if he wants something done a certain way, he can do it himself. Not the a-hole, and well played. Yeah, 3 sentences in, I went, oh, OP's a girl, isn't she? Not the a-hole. He sounds like an idiot. Why would your parents expect you to cater to him? Your parents are a-holes for allowing your brother to be such an entitled little turd. You were definitely not the a-hole. Why do your parents baby him? That's nauseating. And Togar Sucks says, not the a-hole. Reading the title, I was thinking otherwise because you just don't F with someone's food. But you're not the asshole at all. Your brother is an entitled brat who should be more than capable of making food for himself at his age. You know what's in the food, and so does he. He just chooses not to eat it. Honestly, you should make it a rule with your parents going forward that you will not be coming to their house anymore unless they make it clear you will not be expected to cook for your brother. And now I ask you guys, do you guys think OP was a female in this story and that's why this is happening? Or do you think, it could have been a guy and there's just a stupid 18-year-old that is entitled to food that they don't want to make? And what experiences have you had before with things like this? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. Our next post is by user Snowballs and Carrots, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my friend what did she expect when she got pregnant? Sorry, on mobile. I, 18 female, went to high school with this girl S, 18 female, and we're both currently in college together. For a little background on S, she was obsessed and determined to lose her V-card before 18, which didn't happen, but she got close with some guy that she met online. Months later, she starts talking to this guy at her work, M, 28 male, who pays a bit too much attention to her. At first, she claimed it was a friendly thing, but we all kinda told her it's unlikely a 28-year-old wants to be friends with an 18-year-old. S was not popular in high school, and didn't date. Not her choice, but neither did anyone in our friend group. So, they started going to the gym together, and one day they did it at the park. Then she started to do it again with him in the privacy of his home. Turns out, he's engaged. We don't know the girl's name, but he straight up told her that he's engaged and won't leave his fiancée. She continued anyway, and sorta hoped he would. We all met up to celebrate finishing this first semester. My town is doing great with COVID, and it was only the 4 of us. And one of us brought beer, which is legal here. She starts drinking, and after 1 beer, she reveals to us she's pregnant. Our other friend says, should you be drinking? And S said, doesn't matter, I'm not keeping it. S has always said she never wanted kids. She told us M hates condoms and wouldn't use them. One of us asks if she was on the pill, Our school was good at teaching sex ed and contraceptives, and she says no, that she didn't think it'd happen. This is where I may be the a-hole, because I say, what did you think was going to happen? She got all mad at me and said I wasn't supporting her and berated me for my comments. After she was done, I told her she could stay with me. I'd drive her to the clinic so her mum wouldn't find out, which she was super adamant about. I'm trying not to be super judgmental, especially in the moment, because I just see her as someone who got taken advantage of. We did warn her about him, and while you may think she's learned her lesson, she didn't. She's talking about seeing him again, mostly for money for the appointment, and seeing where it goes. Am I the a-hole? Why would you saying what did she expect be an a-hole-ish thing to say? Like, yeah, the truth may hurt her feelings there, but in this situation, that saying the truth like that, I don't think it makes you an a-hole. What did you expect when you keep sleeping with someone that's 10 years older than you and is engaged and is not going to break their engagement? Did you expect them to break that engagement? What do you expect when you don't use condoms? Did you really not expect to get pregnant? Because it's not perfect. Yeah, a lot of people can get away with it, but, you roll the dice every time. You roll the dice enough times, you're going to get snake eyes. It's just the way of the world. I wouldn't count you as the a-hole in this situation, OP. I think what you did was fair, and I think that's a fair evaluation of your friends, not the a-hole. Slithery Pringle says, I thought that was a valid question, so not the a-hole. Seriously though, at 18, you are too old to not take your sex life and well-being seriously. There could be other women involved. Obviously, aside from the fiancé, which increases the risks of contracting STIs. Jesus, that guy's wife. This dude is going around sleeping with girls. Let's face it, it's unlikely S is the only one with no protection. She could get so many diseases from him. I'm a fan of minding your own business, but I hope someone in the office tips off the wife for her safety. Not the a-hole. Your friend needs a babysitter still. Sounds like the friend has a lot of maturing to do. She's with a guy who is knowingly engaged, who doesn't like to wear condoms when they have sex, so she is not even on the pill either, therefore she gets pregnant. Even if she gets an abortion and she decides to go back to the poor excuse of a man, she's gonna get pregnant again, and it's gonna happen again. OP is a good friend for not just sitting back and trying to tell the friend some honest truth about her situation. And Bravo is over says, not the a-hole. Technically you're right. What did she expect not protecting herself at all? But although she may not currently be affected by what's happening, she may eventually be affected. Terminating a pregnancy has the potential to be a life-changing experience. Please be patient with her. She has a lot to process. The age difference, him potentially preying on her, the fact that she doesn't want to protect her or himself, and the fact he's engaged is, or could, weigh on her. Also, please encourage her to get checked for STIs as well. Good luck. And OP replies, that was my first thought. STDs. I think she's doing a screening when she goes to the appointment. I'll remind her if not. Our next post is by user SurplusC696, titled, Am I the a-hole if I clapped back too hard? So, a buddy of mine has been making comments about mine and another's friends' weight for about a year now. Bear in mind, neither of us are obese, but absolutely we are bigger boys. Time after time, I've politely told him to stop making these jokes and comments because it's uncalled for, and he's the only one who finds it funny. Every single time we've called him out, he gave the same excuse. I just don't know how to talk to people. I never mean it in a bad way, etc. Well, recently he made a remark about me again, and I decided to finally take a shot back. He's been dating a new girl every other week for a few months now, so when he shot at me I said, Hey man, you still dating that girl? She's about a week past expiration. And he lost it. Now the friend group is divided like a damn divorced family. Am I in the wrong here, or did I have a right to finally fire back? I think you had a right to fire back in this situation. I mean, it's a little bit of a dick thing in this situation to say that, but I think it was justified for you to have said that. You don't need to give an excuse for saying that because he's been firing at you. I think it's fair to fire back in some instances. If he's going to make comments about you being bigger boys and obese for about a year now, why didn't he expect retaliation from that? If I were to ever call someone obese, I'd more than expect them to fire back at me. I'm going in with the expectation of, starting a little, exchange if I'm going to make comments like that. I think what both of you guys are doing here, it's childish, but it's not unexpected. I'm going to give you the pass on this one and say not the a-hole. Maximum System 7819 says, everyone sucks here. The reason I think you're a bit of an a-hole is that your burn was aimed at the girl more than him. If you're going to clap back, aim better. I kind of took it to mean that she's a week past his expiration. That is, he moves to another girl after a week, and OP is calling him out on it. I get the burn was intended to be a slight at the friends, but the joke is that the women he chooses spoil like food. It just doesn't work. At the very least, it pulls the woman well into the burn. Maybe try, isn't she sick of you yet? Or, aren't we at the week where she sees past your physique to your personality? Etc., etc. If you give her agency, he becomes the butt of the joke more readily. Post doesn't say that the woman was there though, just that the friend has a revolving door of girlfriends, and I feel like it was a pretty good and justified burn. Friend obviously thinks his crap don't stink, and takes it out on just about everyone else. F that guy. Also, I almost wouldn't blame OP for saying such a thing in front of said lady. She deserves to know. Friend is totally the a-hole here. I would say not the a-hole. You don't have to take shit from people just because they're your friends. Personally, I think making fun of someone's weight is worse than what you said. Not the a-hole, you've asked him repeatedly not to joke like that because it bothers you, and his excuse is he doesn't know how to talk to people? Well, he should take the hint and not insult them if they don't like it, and especially if he can't take it. Not the a-hole. If you can't take crap, don't throw it. If he's apologizing but doing it again later, it's not an apology, it's an appeasement. That being said, we don't know how sensitive you guys are about your respective insults. If you're confident in your weight and the comment doesn't affect you much, but your friend is really sensitive about how he can't seem to lock down a girlfriend, you're the a-hole. If you're really sensitive about your body image and your friend is okay with not locking down a girlfriend, not the a-hole. It all comes down to if you knew your comment would be intensely painful, and if he knew comments about your body are intensely painful. And OP makes their own comment that says, I'd like to say that yes, me and my buddy both aren't comfortable with the weight comments, especially since I've been trying to make the better choices to get healthier lately. However, he has never expressed any insecurities or anger over comments about relationships before. We all make jokes about each other's relationships regularly, and it has always seemed like everyone else just brushed it off easily. So what do you guys reckon for story 3? Do you think it's an everyone sucks here, you're the a-hole, or a not the a-hole instance? Because I can see, obviously, fair arguments for all three. I'm still sticking to my not the a-hole judgment here. I feel like after a year of bullying from someone, you're more than welcome to fire back. That is just way too long a time to not stand up for yourself. I don't know, it'd be ridiculous to be bullied for that long. I'm sticking by it, not the a-hole. And our last post is by user Broken Trust A-hole, titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to babysit for my brother and sister-in-law after they previously told me they don't trust me? So I, 28 male, have an older brother, 31 male, and sister-in-law, 30 female, who have a 3-year-old son, and sister-in-law is about 7 months pregnant with their second child. I am a single man in my 20s, and I live by myself. As such, I live a fairly typical bachelor lifestyle. I enjoy going out to bars and clubs. In the past, I've attended music festivals and dabbled in drug use. and I do not apologize for it. It's the way I'm choosing to live my life right now. But I'm also working full-time for a Fortune 500 company and making well over 6 figures. All in all, I'd like to think that I have my stuff together pretty well for a person my age. When my brother and sister-in-law had their first kid, sister-in-law pretty much told me that in no uncertain terms that she would never trust me to watch her son by myself. She told this to me completely on her own, and when I asked my brother about it, he pretty much just sided with her and shrugged. Now, I admit that some aspects of my lifestyle are not kid-friendly, but I also understand there's a time and place for everything, and I would never do anything to put my nephew in any compromised situation. I have never pressed the topic with my sister-in-law or my brother, and until recently, it has never been a problem. A few weeks ago, my brother called me in the middle of the night and asked if I could watch their son. Sister-in-law was having stomach pains, and they needed to go to the hospital, but they had no one else to watch their son. Sister-in-law's parents were quarantined after COVID exposure, and every other option they had couldn't do it. I was literally a last resort. I asked if sister-in-law was okay with it, and my brother said she didn't know he was asking me, and he was desperate. I told him the only way I would be okay with it is if sister-in-law asked me herself, because I didn't want to cause an issue. My brother told me they didn't have time, and they would drop off my nephew on the way to the hospital in an hour. When they got to my apartment, I went down to meet them, and sister-in-law saw me and recognized where they were, and started screaming at my brother. She started yelling questions at me like whether or not I have drugs on the counter, or if I have a girl up there with me. So I told my brother that I'm sorry, but this wasn't going to work. I told him I love him and hope everything works out, and I told sister-in-law the same, but she ignored me and told my brother to take her to the hospital. Everything at the hospital ended up being okay, and sister-in-law and baby are healthy. She wasn't going into early labor, and they were back home the next day. However, my brother called me after that and said I was a huge asshole for not helping. I said it wasn't really my decision, as sister-in-law made it pretty clear in the moment that she didn't want her son staying with me. He said I should have just taken my nephew, as sister-in-law was in no condition to make a rational decision. My mum called me the other day and said I should apologize to my brother and sister-in-law for what I did, but I don't think I was even in the wrong. Was I an asshole for not helping them? I feel like this is one of those situations where genuinely, no matter what OP says and does, this was going to happen regardless. I don't feel like there's anything that OP could have said or done when that woman arrived with her child to OP's place that would have convinced her that it was okay to have the child there. Could be a little crazy here, but I think it's genuinely a little misogynistic to have said that she's in no condition to make a rational decision. I think if they had time to stop off at his house before going to the hospital, there was time for her to make a rational decision here. Genuinely, it speaks to me in this situation that the brother is just trying to force a decision on both of the OP and his wife. That's not fair on everyone or anyone in this situation. Sister-in-law holds so much resentment for OP for the way they choose to live their life. Put any other race, nationality, or anything, and then start throwing stereotypes of that person's lifestyle or the supposed lifestyle at that person. Was any of that the sister-in-law said acceptable in those circumstances? Because I think it's genuinely comparable in situations like this. I trust the brother not to put this kid in harm's way. I trust the brother to look out for the child. I can understand if she doesn't trust this guy, but to continually attack him for that, and not just be nice about it and say, I don't want you looking after my kid, I'd prefer not to. I can see why she said those things to him. I don't agree with her saying those things to him. I think that's disgusting and rude. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole in this situation. Kinda rubs me the wrong way. Not the a-hole. That's insane. You literally were going to get screamed at and have been the bad guy no matter what you did. That's not fair to you at all. Yes, exactly. OP, you did the right thing, and honestly your brother and sister-in-law are the ones who owe you an apology. In fact, less your sister-in-law who already made her thoughts clear than your brother. Honestly, I think sister-in-law should thank OP for respecting her wishes instead of his brother's pleas. If she's going to continue having this irrational prejudice, she should at least be appreciative that OP isn't ignoring it even when his brother is telling him to. Exactly. She set a clear boundary. OP is not to watch her kids alone. OP is respecting that very clear boundary. He won't watch the kids alone unless it is the clear wish of sister-in-law. Honestly, good job respecting your sister-in-law, OP. Brother is the a-hole here for going behind his wife's back and trying to force her to cross her own lines. Not the a-hole. I personally believe you went about this the right way. You were willing to help, you knew sister-in-law wouldn't, so you asked for her permission. I don't think you owe anyone an apology. Yeah, at first I thought this would be a stubborn, "oh, you said you didn't want me to" thing, with the sister-in-law asking for help. But it obviously isn't at all. What the hell did this brother expect him to do? Take the kid while his mother was there screaming she didn't want him to? Both parents get a say and a veto in who can watch their child, and she clearly wasn't comfortable with it. Plus, the brother is saying that she wasn't thinking straight. Sister-in-law has always said she isn't comfortable with it. It's not new. Not the a-hole. Our first post is by user Please Send Help I Need. Titled, Am I the a-hole for being upset at my sister getting my college fund money? Hi, I'm 17 female, my sister 21 female was always a rebellious child, but never got in trouble. Our grandfather left us both funds for college in his inheritance. The only catch was to actually go to college. My sister was the party animal, and she got pregnant at 18. My parents took care of everything, and she still lives with us, and there's no father in the picture. I wanted to start looking for colleges now to be better prepared, but turns out I have no money left. I'm literally sobbing while writing this. My parents took my entire money and gave it to my sister. I raised this issue on Christmas, and I'm being blamed for ruining Christmas and not loving my niece or my sister. I told them yes, I really hate each and every one of them. I feel like an asshole for that. My parents have offered $10,000 in exchange to calm me down, but that amount was literally $80,000. They are now telling me that I'm greedy. Please Reddit, help me. Am I really the a-hole? Should I take what they're offering me right now because, according to them, this is what they've got? So you've said it in the title that your sister got your college fund money, but they don't say what happened to that college fund money. I'm guessing your parents just took that all, spent it themselves, and then spent it on the sister. I think it's perfectly valid, in this case, to be angry at your sister and angry at your parents, but going forward here, this is probably an r/illegal advice thing that you would have to go to tackle where to from here. But judging it from the surface, I'm going to go with a not the a-hole judgment. Biohazard Bisexual says, not the a-hole. If your grandfather left it to you in a will or any other legal document, you may have grounds to sue for the money. I can? If it was in the will, go ask legal. Yes, you can and should recoup that money. Contact a lawyer. I don't know how to pursue this legally. I don't have a living relative, only aunt. She's not in the country right now. I have no idea how to do this. Try to get a hold of a copy of the will. Then Google lawyers in your area. You should be able to find one with a free first session, or you could also search for pro bono lawyers. Depending on the country, wills are public record, and if your family won't give it to you, a lawyer can get it. Impossible Bop says, not the a-hole. Be mad at your parents. They stole your money and now they're gaslighting you. If you can, you might want to contact a lawyer and see if any laws were broken with the theft of your inheritance. You might be able to sue for it back. It will burn bridges, but these bridges need to be burned anyway. Either way, cut these awful crooks out of your life the second you have the means to. I can't sue them right now. They will most likely kick me out, and I have nowhere to go then. If you're 17, they cannot legally kick you out in a lot of places. Or maybe find a relative to stay with. Robbing you of that money isn't something you can let them sweep under the rug. Your parents are thieves and cannot be trusted. Don't let this go. A lot of places don't even let parents kick out 18-year-olds if they're still in high school. And Vegetable Southern 100 says, not the a-hole. It's well worth speaking to a lawyer. I remember a case that was in the news near me where a will executor stole something like £110,000, was jailed for 6 months, then jailed for a further 3 years for refusing to tell the judge where the money went. Inheritance theft is taken very seriously by courts. So what do you guys think of this one? Would you guys get a lawyer and take this family to the small claims court over this inheritance theft? And would you go as far as trying to get them to jail for 6 months and then 3 years for, refusing to say where the money goes, if that does happen here? I'd love to know what you guys think down in the chat. Our next post is by user Just Want One Boy, titled, Am I the a-hole for asking the doctor how to increase chances of having a boy next time? So, found out today at the ultrasound that my wife is pregnant with twin girls. I wasn't mad, but I was let down because we already have 2 daughters, and I said, come on. It was an accident. I only meant to say it in my head, but I guess I was so frustrated that it came out my mouth and I said it out loud. But it was fine because everybody laughed. I asked the doctor how I could increase the chances of having a boy next time, and he recommended something called the Shettles method, but he said it wasn't guaranteed, and I thanked him. Everybody was happy and laughing. Everything was fine. Soon as we get into the car, my wife turns into a whole different person and stops smiling and being happy. I can't remember her exact words, but I knew she was upset about the question I asked. I told her that I love our daughters, but I just wanted a boy, and that there was nothing wrong with that. She hasn't spoken to me in a few hours. I don't really see what the problem is. I don't want too many replies, please, just like 10. If you read this and you see that there's 10 comments already, please don't add another one. Thank you. Edit. Okay, we passed 10. You can stop now. Thank you. Edit. You guys aren't listening. There's already more than 10. Edit. I asked the mods to lock the comments. You can't comment anymore, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go with you're the a-hole for this one. I mean, you're having kids. Yeah, it's a bit upsetting you don't get the gender you want, but ultimately, gender is done by the man. Sure, if you're a bit upset, I would say keep that to yourself and maybe discuss it with your wife saying, hey, we're married, we're a partnership, this is how I'm feeling, I know it's illogical, I know that it's stupid, but hey, I'm happy we're having kids. This is just upsetting. And then you talk it out and it diffuses. You took the approach of telling the doctor and then thinking everything was okay. Obviously, you can't read the room properly, or there's some great actors around you. You definitely screwed up in this situation, and I think, this is going to take a lot of apologizing and rebuilding trust here. But it's not something that's impossible to come back from. Just realize this is something that's socially unacceptable, and it's unacceptable for you to put that on your wife. That's unneeded stress. You're the a-hole. CatMick14 says, you're the a-hole. Your wife is pregnant with 2 children, not even had them yet, still making them. And you've already moved on to asking about how to make sure the next one she carries is a boy. You should be ashamed of yourself. P.S. You don't get to decide how many people can comment on your post. I think adding on how many people are allowed to comment just further proves he's the a-hole. Little Mountain Mama says, you're the a-hole. While it's okay to feel gender disappointment, you keep your mouth shut around the mother of the 2 girls not even yet born. Talk to a goddamn therapist instead. Also, you're the a-hole for buying into gender bullcrap too hard. Who's to say she has a boy who is the most effeminate kid you have? Who's to say one of your girls won't be a tomboy? You can do whatever the effort is you wanted to do with a boy, with your girls. So while it's okay to feel your feelings, the key is move on and effing be grateful that you have these kids, and stop letting yourself believe a penis is a magic wand that will fulfill whatever dad fantasy you have that is somehow not fulfillable with 4 other kids. If I were your wife after that little conversation, I'd get the tubes tied after birth. P.S. It's your fault you had all girls. Women can only donate XX. You're the one whose big strong boy swimmers got beat out 4 times by the old X's. And Arizona Karenina says, you're the a-hole. Your reaction and your question apparently demonstrated 2 things to your wife. 1, you value your daughters less because having more daughters is a disappointment enough that you would already be planning for next time. And 2, you view your wife as an incubator for next time. Is she to have a say on whether there is a next time? This spontaneous joke on your part likely contains a grain of truth, and your wife perceives this. You hurt her, and this is likely to hurt her for a long time. If I had twins and 2 other kids, there is no way there'd be a next time. Of course, I wouldn't want any kids with an a-hole like OP. Seriously, unless OP and his wife have explicitly discussed how many children they've wanted to have and the number was more than 4, that next time bit is a pretty big assumption. And even if they did want a huge family to start with, she has every right to reconsider when she's caring for 2 little ones while dealing with the challenges of a multiple pregnancy, knowing in a few months she'll be dealing with 2 newborns. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but something tells me OP is the kind of guy who strains his shoulder patting himself on the back if he babysits the kids for a couple of hours so his wife can run errands. Our next post is by user Wonderful Season 8598, titled, Am I the a-hole for not getting my children to apologize? So I live with my wife, female 39, and my 2 kiddos, female 11. One of my daughters is autistic, the other is adopted and came from quite a difficult background, so they both need a bit more attention and care than most kids their age. I was taking a walk with my 2 daughters yesterday, and my biological daughter got a little overwhelmed, and did her usual coping mechanism of sitting on the ground sucking her thumb. My adopted daughter always gets stressed out when her sister is upset, so she was also sitting on the ground cuddling her. I'm trying to comfort them both while also trying to keep them away from the yellow snow that they're coming dangerously close to lying in, when we run into someone we know. She's the mother of one of the kids my daughter goes to school with. I wouldn't say we're friends, as we have very little in common aside from that, but we have a decent amount of rapport. Seeing the situation, she asks if everything is okay. I told her it was, and just that they don't really handle crowds and noise very well, but that everything is fine. She reaches out, pulls Bio daughter to her feet and asks, very kindly, but a bit intensely, if everything is okay. Bio daughter really doesn't like being touched by strangers and breaks away to cling on to me. Friend tries to hug adopted daughter, who does the same. I'm having a bit of an issue processing all of this. I have autism too, so I take a few seconds to react, and by the time I've taken everything in, my friend has her hands on both of my daughters, quite tightly, and is saying how rude they're being. I snap and start shouting at her to get her hands off of my children. She starts crying and runs off. Later, she sends me a Facebook message. She apologizes for what she did and says that her oldest daughter had died a few days ago and that seeing my kids had triggered a lot of negative emotions in her. I apologized back to her for cursing her out and said that if she needed any help with anything, to message me. She said what would really help was getting my kids to apologize to her. I responded, I'm copying and pasting this for full disclosure, I'm really sorry, but I don't think I can do that. I know your actions were understandable given the circumstances, but at the end of the day, my children reacted the way they did because there was an adult putting her hands on them without permission, and I don't want to teach them that it's wrong to break away when someone does that. I'm really sorry for all the pain you're going through. My brother passed away a few years ago, and it was a wreck, and if there's anything I can do, to please let me know. She responded, unbelievable, and blocked me. Am I the a-hole? At the end of the day, my first responsibility is to my children, and I did what I thought was best for them, but I maybe should have been more responsive to her pain. I don't think there's a good argument for an everyone sucks here or you're the a-hole, side to be taking on this issue. OP didn't know at the time that this person's oldest daughter had passed away before this. All they saw were the actions of someone that were not normal, and they themselves didn't know how to process it because it was not something you'd expect someone else to do. The woman was acting very aggressively and irrationally towards the kids, and I think it's unfair to ask the kids, who did nothing wrong in this situation, who feel like the victims and are the victims, to apologize to someone who caused a stupid situation to happen. I really don't agree with this woman's actions. She may just be processing grief. That could be an explanation for it, though it's not a justification to ask them to apologize. They have nothing to apologize for. Not the a-hole. TDA Liamo says, absolutely not the a-hole. She harassed and basically assaulted your children when they were upset and overwhelmed. They did nothing wrong, so they don't have to apologize. Grief isn't an excuse for crappy behavior. This should be on posters. People always act like they get a free pass for being assholes by saying, sorry, I'm just having a bad day. My mum is sick, my aunt just died, etc. Same thing with people who have behavioral difficulties and mental conditions and disabilities. I can understand that some people might be prone to lashing out for whatever reason, but no condition should be used as an excuse for being a wanker. People need to be responsible for their behavior and try to treat others well, no matter what trouble they are going through. As someone with depression and anxiety, I know sometimes I can be rather crappy when I completely shut down. However, I usually apologize and admit that I should have done whatever I did and promise to work on it in the future. Sadly, not everyone knows that using your mental illness as an excuse to be crappy is not okay. And God dang says, not the a-hole. You don't grab someone else's kids and then get mad when they react negatively. I don't see anything wrong with what you did, and you seem like a lovely parent. Especially a kid with autism. How thick can a skull get? And Little Oreo95 says, not the a-hole. She overstepped every boundary your daughters have. She is the one who should apologize. And I mean with sincerity. She apologizing and later proceeding to ask your daughters to apologize to her was like, I'm only going to say sorry because I want them to say to me too, not because I really think I did wrong. She was an adult touching 2 kids without permission. Your daughters have nothing to apologize for, and you acted really well for telling her so. To be fair, I think her apology was sincere, but thanks. She kinda ditched some of that sincerity with calling you unbelievable for what was a perfectly fine response to the situation. Also, he opened up and shared a detail of his life with her that his brother had also died. She couldn't even say sorry for your loss or anything, instead replying with, unbelievable. She expected the world to bend for her loss, but couldn't even spare a thought for his. Not the a-hole. That seems like a pretty open and shut case for this one for me. If you guys have any other thoughts in this situation, any other differing opinions that might make OP an a-hole here, I'd love to hear it down in the chats. We love some controversial opinions here. And our last post is by user Animal Crossing Throw, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my cousin she wasn't being cyberbullied after calling out racist cosplay? I have a younger cousin. She's 20. For reference, we are both Chinese Americans who grew up in the US. Her parents had bad English, so they relied on her to translate a lot as a kid. This gave her a huge ego growing up since she had so much control over her parents, and in my opinion, turned her super arrogant. She had no friends growing up because she was so unlikable and controlling. We tolerated her at family gatherings, but she was a brat and would cry and scream if we didn't play what she wanted to play. Since she was the youngest, our parents forced us to go along with her. I hoped going to college would fix her since she'd be away from her parents, but she only got into community college and lived at home. I really hoped transferring to an actual college would give her a chance to grow up, But then the pandemic hit, so now she's doing year 3 still at home. Anyways, my aunt recently called us, saying that she was upset and claiming to be cyberbullied. Our parents aren't super good with technology, so they all know the horror stories about cyberbullying victims. So they asked me, since I'm closest in age to her, to talk to her and figure out what's happening. Turns out she made a post about how white people who cosplay Asian characters are racist and perpetuating yellowface, and they need to stop. And she topped it all off by pulling pictures of random cosplayers and calling them out. This post got traction, and a bunch of people started pointing out how this was incorrect, and in general, disagreeing with her. She immediately accused everyone who disagreed with her as racist, and she was Chinese, so she had final say. Then, Chinese people from Asia disagreed with her, and she started talking about how they don't count because they aren't Chinese American and don't have to experience life as a minority. And then other Chinese Americans disagreed with her, and she started talking about how this was her personal feelings, so there. I was like, okay, so where's the bullying? And there wasn't. It was literally people just commenting, telling her she's wrong, or messaging her and telling her she's wrong. Some with varying levels of civility. But apparently, she was so distressed by people disagreeing with her, she locked her account to followers only and made this dramatic post about how she's taking a break to protect her mental health. I flat out told her she wasn't being cyberbullied. Her mental health problems come from experiencing shame and embarrassment for the first time in her life, and that she should just stop doubling down, remove her post, apologize for being wrong, and this will all blow over in 2 weeks. And of course, she screamed at me, hung up, and my aunt was like, what the hell? I tried explaining to her, but she didn't get it, and just told me I should have just gone along with it, like when we were kids, and of course my parents are mad at me, because I was supposed to make her feel better, not worse. Edit. No, they were not using yellow makeup or eye tape. Literally, if a white person dressed up as an Asian character, it was yellowface. Well, you've given me enough backstory and understanding about where this woman is coming from that I'm on your side for this one. She does sound like she's taken the PC police way too far, and she's just looking for ways to be superior. Or ways that she can herself be like, oh, I'm going to cancel these guys. I'm going to shit on them because this is my opinion on it and I'm right. And also you can't say because you're not Chinese, you're not a minority. Oh wait, you're not a Chinese American, you don't understand. People have every right to argue back against stupid logic like that. And it's obvious that she can't take people not agreeing with her. That's her fault for going out of the internet with stupid opinions like that. If that deteriorates her mental health, so be it. Come back when you're feeling better, but do not frame it as cyberbullying. It is not what it is. She's just wrong and people proved her wrong. OP, what you did, it was the right thing to do. You cannot bend over backwards for this woman. Not the a-hole. Zigrasisid says, not the a-hole. Girl needs a dose of reality to grow up. She's the kind of person that gives arguments against racism a bad name. Not the a-hole. This is exactly it right here. If you call things racism that aren't, it diminishes actual racism. The whole thing is ridiculous. Maybe a couple more of these and she'll start learning? It's not going to change the internet, as it's ruthless calling out those who are wrong, and sometimes those who aren't, lol. Not the a-hole. It looks like your cousin has finally learnt that the Earth revolves around the sun, not her. I feel for you though, as I'm betting this won't be the last time you're expected to pander to her after she has a brush with reality. Your parents really aren't helping the situation either. I do feel for them, as it doesn't sound like they have anyone else to reach out to. Are there any families or friends they have in your area who could maybe offer the same perspective as yours, and help them see how much of an a-hole your cousin is? And OP replies, God, my parents said that if she got into my college, we should become roommates since I could take care of her. I was so happy when I found out that she was rejected. They can always ask the rest of my cousins, which is probably what they'll do. I told them they should just restrict her PC and internet usage so she could only do schoolwork so she'll stop making trouble for herself online. But 100% chance she'll throw a bigger fit if they try. She's an adult, so I doubt they can reasonably restrict her internet usage. Well, technically her parents bought all her devices, so they can just take them away or just unplug the router. And my other relative manages the family phone plan, so they could theoretically just drop her data to the lowest so she has to rely on Wi-Fi to do anything else. But that would take the whole family coming together to agree to actually discipline her, so that'll probably never happen. And Dead God Jess says, not the a-hole. If I had a dime for every time a 20-year-old got it in their head that they're the supreme authority on an issue they're new to the discussion on, I'd be able to build a new form of the internet. The only part of this where it seems that she has any leg to stand on is saying the experiences of diaspora versus folks in the homeland are very different, but the rest of that is just entitled trash. That said, I'm black, so not my conversation to have, lol. Hopefully getting knocked down a peg or two will even her out over some time. At the very least, she'll learn when to hold her tongue. Good luck, OP. And OP replies, yeah. She basically took some sociology and Asian American studies class and decided she was now the absolute authority on the internet. Also, one of the counter-arguments was if people can only cosplay characters of the same race, where would that leave black or Hispanic people who have, no representation in anime? Or biracial people, especially if they appear more than of one race than the other? She actually tripled down on that and said only physical appearances was the most important. So if a biracial white/Asian person looked more white, they shouldn't be allowed to cosplay as an Asian character. Entitled Spoiled Brat plus Sociology class equals disaster. That is a tired-ass argument, and the extra spicy bigotry of trying to police what other BIPOC do and don't get to cosplay is really something special. I'm always amused at how folks will overlook all the actual racism in cosplay circles and go straight for some ridiculous BS. I wonder if she really felt like it was unread ground and wanted to be the first. Our first post is by user, The Bad Sister-in-Law Makeup. Titled, Am I the a-hole for outshining the bride because of my makeup? So the wedding happened a week ago, and my husband keeps trying to make me feel guilty about this, even though I don't think I'm the a-hole and don't understand what the big deal is. I have been doing makeup professionally for the entirety of my adult life. When I found out my husband's brother proposed to my now sister-in-law, I was truly excited for them. I even asked my sister-in-law if she would like me to do her makeup for free. She said no because one of her friends already offered to do sister-in-law's makeup. Sister-in-law then said she didn't really like the style of the makeup I do. I do tend to go for more dramatic makeup looks, especially if I'm going out. Sister-in-law, on the other hand, is a tomboy, and I honestly can't even think of a time that I've seen her with makeup. However, I don't judge her for this, and I think she looks beautiful without wearing makeup. So when she said she didn't like the way I did my makeup, I was kind of butthurt, but I understood. However, just because I like flashier makeup doesn't mean my clients have to too. So fast forward to last Saturday, the day of the wedding. My sister-in-law looked lovely, as expected, and her makeup was fine. It looked like she was wearing a peach eyeshadow, mascara, and a blush that matched her eyeshadow. By wedding standards, this was very minimalistic, but it suited her. Me, on the other hand, was wearing a full face of makeup, which looked pretty close to this. After the ceremony was over, I went to congratulate and talk to my sister-in-law, but once she saw me, she was curt and giving me the cold shoulder. Throughout the week, I've been getting intel from my husband and my other sister-in-law that apparently she was upset that I had pulled out all the stops on my face, despite knowing that she was going for a more natural look, and that because we had already talked about it, I should have known to tone my look down. Frankly, I did put it on a little thick, as they say, but it's not like I was wearing crazy colors or a revealing dress. I keep getting crap from my husband and in-laws because I couldn't tone it down for one night, or that I was trying to steal attention from her. I feel like I'm crazy because that's just how I like to present myself. I want to look nice. I thought I had a pretty decent relationship with my sister-in-law until now. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. A commenter brought up a good point, and to be 100% fair, I think I should note that that side of the family is fairly conservative or prudish. But also, I've been married to my husband for a significant amount of time, and they've seen me with my glam makeup on, and have previously received compliments on it at family events, so I didn't think it would be a problem. This to me just sounds like a clash of beliefs, but I also believe it's not something that you can tell someone to do at your wedding. I'm all for setting guidelines on what people wear. You don't want them to be showing up in a wedding dress, for example, at your wedding. That's a very extreme example of what's going on here. But to get upset at OP for wearing a full face of makeup just because you're a conservative person? What? People wear full faces of makeup to weddings all the time. I'd say it's one of the best excuses to dress up and look your best. I mean, if you want to wear a thin layer of makeup, not that much makeup, you're more than welcome to, but I feel like if you're going to get pissed off at them for wearing as much makeup as they want to, that's on you, that's not on OP. I think they're more than within their rights to be pissed off, but I think their anger is unjust, and I think OP is not the a-hole in this situation. And in the comments, AddPuzzleheaded3823 says, I'm really torn on this one because, from the language you use in writing this, it's coming across that you may have been trying to upstage your sister-in-law out of spite. You also kind of speak negatively in a passive-aggressive way about her look. At the same time though, it also seems like she didn't actually talk to you. She just expected you to intuitively know what kind of look she would be doing and to tone down your makeup accordingly. So I'm just going to go, everyone sucks here. I agree with this. It sounds like OP knew what she was doing, because as she said, she was butthurt and wanted to show her future sister-in-law what she can do. For a family wedding, I think people expect their family to match the tone of the wedding. If you know the bride is a minimalist, then you dial it down for one day. That is supposed to be about the couple, not everyone else who was invited. And OP replies, whenever she declined, I was butthurt, but I didn't dwell on it. I offered because I know makeup artists can be expensive and could have given her more of a natural look if she had taken me up on the offer. Generally, I just wanted her to be happy, which is why I didn't dwell on her comment. I didn't want to spite her and actively respect anyone's choice not to wear makeup. But I showed up how I would have showed up to any other event or wedding. With that said, you make a good point here. Quote, if you know the bride is a minimalist, then you dial it down. End quote. I honestly didn't think she would have cared, but this is worth bringing up when I apologize and talk to her about it. And Books and Dancing replies, did you mention when you initially offered that you'd do a more natural look to suit her preferences? Have you ever done a more natural look on yourself and others, and has she seen examples of that? I think without explicitly explaining what you would do, then it's pretty a-hole-ish of you to even be hurt by her refusal. I was a bridesmaid for a friend who initially didn't want to wear any makeup for her wedding. Not because she doesn't like makeup, but because she didn't want to pay for an artist and was not confident enough in her abilities to consistently do it well. When I first offered, admittedly somewhat selfishly because I, as a bridesmaid, would defo be wearing makeup and didn't want to outshine the bride, she was reluctant because what I do for myself wasn't to her tastes. But I sat her down and showed her some natural bridal looks, and we found stuff that she wanted. And I did her makeup accordingly. We even did a couple test runs, one of which for her engagement party, so her fiancé had a chance to see. Another reason she was concerned about makeup was if he would like it or not, and everyone was pleased with the look. And then for the wedding, even though I wanted to go more glam, I did a very subdued, natural look for myself, because no one wants to be the one outshining the bride. I don't think you're a super raging a-hole, but you did miss the mark here. I think a simple apology would go a long way, and if it doesn't, then she's the a-hole. The Mirror's Truth says, not the a-hole. She's in the wedding dress, all eyes are on her. If she wanted a flashier look, that's her problem, but it's not up to her how you do your makeup, and didn't even directly discuss it with you. And Whimsical Mara says, "You're the a-hole. It's clear, reading in between the lines, that you wanted to show up your tomboy sister-in-law and remind everyone that you were the most beautiful woman at the ball, even though on her wedding day, the bride should be the belle of the ball. Quote, I'd pulled out all the stops on my face. I did put on a little thick, as they say. They have seen me with my glam makeup on and have previously received compliments on it at family events. Never mind. Don't have to read between the lines. You come right out and admit it. Same with your feelings about the sister-in-law." And there's these comments here. "Your poor sister-in-law. She's not competing with you, but you sure are competing with her." Edit. Look at it this way, folks. If I was at a wedding, a funeral, a graduation, an award ceremony, or any other sort of social gathering where the focus is supposed to be on a specific person or a group of people, and someone went out of their way to be the center of attention or draw attention to themselves and away from the people who should be the focus of the ceremony, I'm gonna think they're a jerk. I don't care if they are a costume designer, a celebrity, or makeup artists. They drew attention away from the person who is supposed to be the center of attention, and just because it's their passion doesn't change the fact that they went out of their way to stand out when they didn't have to. It's called courtesy and grace, letting other people shine and have their special moment. Adults should not have to be asked to do so, but should be mature enough to read the situation and put someone else first. It's getting a bit long, I apologize, but this is the last comment, and I agree with this one more. It's in reply to that last one by Kim Berries. Have you never met a makeup addict or professional makeup artist? They go all out for no reason sometimes. It's their hobby. They will go no holds barred at a formal event. If sister-in-law wanted her to tone it down from her normal formal look, which is what I think this was, to be honest, a little thick for most people is probably normal, or very close to it for OP. I have a friend like this. She was a guest at my wedding. She behaved exactly as I expected her to. Lots of dramatic makeup, but I wasn't butthurt about it because A, I don't care, and I loved the makeup that I'd done for myself. It was much less dramatic than hers. And B, I don't expect people to read my mind. Totally different story if sister-in-law had asked her to tone it down. I think sister-in-law is upset and she didn't like her makeup as much as she thought she would. I hardly wear makeup like the sister-in-law, but I knew I wanted a professional for my wedding. I figured it was my one excuse for a professional makeover, and would have regretted not doing it. So yeah, sorry for the extended comments on this one, but, the arguments are all over the place for this one. I personally am going to stick to the not the a-hole judgment for that. It kind of felt like there wasn't enough communication going on, and they kind of just trapped OP by not explicitly saying, do not wear that much makeup, I'm not cool with you wearing that much makeup. They let her go to the wedding wearing that makeup, knowing that she would do it, and then chose to get pissed off at her afterwards. I feel like that's their fault, and that's not OP's fault. I'm sticking to my guns with not the a-hole for this one. Our next post is by user I'm Actually the Grinch, titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at my dad, 51 male, and calling him a monster for what he gave my sister, 30 female, as a Christmas gift? Now, my 28 female sister Amanda never met her bio mum. My dad, 51 male, raised her alone until she was barely 1. My dad and my mum got married in 1992. Amanda knew that my mum wasn't her bio mother. She started pressuring my dad for information on her mum when she was around 17. My dad always gave her vague answers and refused to talk about her bio mum, which put a strain on their relationship. Enter our uncle, 49 male, and he revealed the family secret. Apparently, Amy's mum wanted an abortion. She was 19, but my dad and his parents were able to bribe her. They offered her money if she followed up with a pregnancy, and she accepted. My grandparents sold one of their houses and gave her half of that money to Amy's mum when the pregnancy was viable. and the other half she received when she waived her parental rights over Amy to let my mum adopt her when she was 4. My uncle wasn't supposed to tell her that. My grandparents were furious. Amy stopped her crusade to meet her bio mum, and her relationship with my dad went back to normal. Amy never mentioned her bio mum again. A month ago, Amy found out that she was pregnant. The pregnancy was an accident. She switched birth controls. The problem being, Amy is about to start her surgical residency, and her hours are insane. It's basically impossible to raise a baby while working in that rhythm, so she wanted an abortion. The problem is that Mark, 35 male, her fiancé of 6 years, wanted her to keep the baby. It caused a big fight. In a dick move to convince Amy to keep the baby, Mark told Dad about this. Until that point, no one in our family knew about this. Dad talked with her, and they got into an enormous fight. Amy went and got the abortion 10 days ago. Mark ended up breaking up with her, and she's obviously really sad. My dad was acting like a jerk. He was pretending that Amy didn't exist. He didn't want to talk or see her. So, on Christmas Day, we were exchanging gifts. And when everyone had already finished giving each other gifts, Dad got up and gave Amy her present. He gave her an envelope in front of everyone and told her to open it. It was 3 pictures with something written on the back, a name, an address, and a phone number. Dad told her that he was tired of babying her, that this is a photo of her bio mum and her 2 sons. That was her bio mum's address, and that he contacted her bio mum, and she is willing to speak with Amy. He gave her Amy's number. Dad thinks that they will have a great relationship since they are so similar. Oh, you fucking asshole. Amy broke down crying. I ended up in a fight with Dad, calling him a monster for doing that to her, and he just said that he was just tired and left. We ended up leaving, and she spent the rest of Christmas crying on my shoulder. She's a mess since that. My younger brothers called me a Grinch for making a scene and ruining Christmas. My mum was silent during the whole thing. My parents have been giving me the cold shoulder since Christmas. Am I the a-hole here? And edit, Amy is short for Amanda. That was so cold. And everyone else putting this on OP for standing up for Amanda? What the fuck is their problem? That was seriously ice cold saying that, since they're so similar. There's no justification for that. He went in for the kill shot, and, everyone else enabling the dad and protecting him, they are just as bad. They are pond scum. They are lower than filth to me for standing up for that. You and Amanda don't need to be treated like this. I would leave that house. Go find somewhere where you're not going to be treated like garbage from these people. Not the a-hole for standing up for them. You did the right thing. In the comments, CatMick14 says, not the a-hole. It sounds like you and your sister are the only ones not acting like a-holes here. Here is why every single other person involved is an a-hole. 1. Her ex-fiancé is an a-hole for trying to use her father to control her. 2. Y'all's dad is an a-hole for berating her about something that was none of his business, and then using Christmas as an opportunity to further lash out at her. 3. Your mother is an a-hole for standing by and not saying jack crap while he did it. And 4. Finally, every younger brother who thinks you are the issue here is an a-hole, because you are clearly not the one that made a scene. That would be your father. No Passenger 6511 replies, you made an excellent point of that situation. In point 2, I would add that he deliberately waited for Christmas Day to criticize her in front of everyone. I'd also add, Amy doesn't owe her father anything for existing. Her life isn't a gift from him, or something he purchased by pressuring and briding a young woman, her mother, who obviously wasn't ready to have a child. The fact that she was born doesn't afford him or anyone else the right to control or dictate how she lives her life now. The circumstances of her birth have no bearing on her right to bodily autonomy or her right to make her own decisions. Amy wasn't ready for a baby. Her body, her choice, her life, it's that simple. The father is a monster on this one. His behavior is abusive, and babying her here is code for controlling her. If I were Amy, I'd be exercising my right to make my own choices by ending my relationship with my father. I feel the same. This father does not deserve to be called a father, and the mother can be crowned as the most spineless of them all. What a terrible and dysfunctional family. Opie, you are not the a-hole. I'm glad Amy has your support while she heals from this attack by basically both of her parents' and ex's betrayal. She did what she needed to do for herself, and I hope her healing excludes her parents. And Type 1 Error says, "Oh my god, women are not baby-making machines. Whatever their views on abortion, your father had no right to rub her decision in her face. He clearly has no respect for women, something that your brothers seems to have inherited. Good on you for standing up for your sister. You are not the a-hole. You're a wonderful sister and a badass." What do you guys think of this one? Sorry for the use of colourful language. I like to use it here and there, but we know what YouTube's like. I think it's very clear on this one, but I'm sure there's, conservative viewpoints on these ones where it can be subjective on what people think about, you could be the a-hole for this, that, and the other. I'm just giving my opinion on this one, and Reddit has an opinion of their own. It looks like it's heavily not the a-hole. I'd love to know what you think in the comments. And our last post today is by user XMAhole111, titled, "Am I the a-hole for bringing my fiancé to Christmas despite my famous cousin's wishes?" My cousin is very famous. Yes, you've heard of him, and no, I won't tell you who he is. When we have family functions, mainly for holidays, Terry likes for them to be only family so he can be himself and get drunk and pass out on the couch and share Hollywood gossip with us. Otherwise, he feels like he's being interviewed and having everyone talk to him or want a picture, and he has to be in promo mode. He said it's because he was tired of having to meet strangers and not be able to let loose, and there were some issues of these partners taking pictures of him or spreading gossip. I hated this at first because I would be dating some chick and she would want to get to meet him, and it's awkward to tell them they can't come to family events, and they get mad that they never get to meet him. My Tinder has a pic of me with Terry, but I get it, so I was fine with it until this year. I began dating this chick in August. I couldn't bring her to Thanksgiving. Fine. But when I walk in, I see another cousin, Danielle, has brought her boyfriend Steve, even though they've been together for less than a year. They got together over New Year's and engaged on Halloween. Terry was fine with this because he's met Steve before. Old family friend, even though I've been told that no exceptions are allowed to his rule. Thanksgiving sucked because the whole time I was mad that I once again wasn't allowed to bring my girlfriend. My girlfriend consoled me after, and I realized that she's my soulmate. 2 weeks ago, I proposed and we got engaged. Christmas was at my aunt's, and I'm a believer in ask for forgiveness, not permission. So I brought my fiancée because she had nowhere else to go, and I wanted her to meet my family. We walk into the house and all hell breaks loose. Everyone was asking who she was and scolding me about the rules, and Terry flipped out. He was already buzzed and looked 20 pounds heavier than he usually presents himself, and started yelling at me for doing this to him. He didn't seem excited at all about my engagement or willing to introduce himself to her. Our grandma was telling Terry to get over it and asking to see the ring and saying that she wished she had gotten my fiancé a gift, so grandma was on my side. But Terry was still arguing with me and said I shouldn't be allowed at any more events, and he ended up calling an Uber Black and leaving before we even ate. To top it all off, my uncle, who has never even liked Terry, got upset because apparently Terry was a secret Santa, so he didn't get a gift, so my uncle started blaming me for ruining Christmas. I get they're mad, but it was clear that there was an exception for fiancés, and I'm embarrassed that my family was so rude to her when I just didn't want her to be alone on Christmas. Am I the a-hole? Dude, his comments are so wild. I'm gonna read them before giving you guys an evaluation. You don't really need context for these. You can kind of guess the context of some of them. He says, "My matches skyrocket when I have a picture with him. Just trying to level the playing field on the apps as a guy. I didn't tell them about the engagement because I knew they would be critical because my previous engagement didn't end up working out. If I had told them, they would have told me not to come, or Terry wouldn't have shown up and everyone would have been sad because he's the favorite. And my new fiancé isn't like my previous one. She's definitely not a fangirl and has only asked a few times about getting a picture with him." Prairie Mountain Zen says, "How many times have you been engaged?" "Twice before. Once when I was 19 and an idiot, so that didn't work out. Then again later on and I thought she was the one, but it ended when she sent a story about my cousin to TMZ to make a quick buck. Hence, Terry's rule." Well, that was very relevant information that you conveniently left out. Oh my god. She's a photographer/model, so it'd be good if she could take pictures of and with him, but it's not like a priority or anything, just like, oh wow, when I get to meet him, I'd love to get a picture with all of us. She made 6 figures from Instagram and OnlyFans this year alone, so it's not like I date total nobodies. She understands the lifestyle. And update, reading the comments, there's a mixed response, but it looks like the consensus leans towards I was the a-hole. So yeah, I probably could have handled it a bit better. And people are writing me for not including every detail on the post, but there was a word limit. Also, I'm not from Massachusetts, and never heard the term man asshole before posting this. The username is from Christmas, the holiday, and asshole the subreddit. Nobody has correctly guessed who Terry is, and I won't respond to any more guesses. And I don't use his picture to get girls. I literally have a Raya, so I have no issues in that department. Sounds like a fucking liar to me. Anyway, nobody talked to me yesterday, but I found out this morning that all is fine. Terry called me to apologize for making a scene and congratulated me on my engagement, and I accepted his apology. He also told me he went back and visited with family yesterday and gave my uncle his gift from Secret Santa, so Christmas isn't ruined for him. As for my fiancée, she handled it all really well, even though it was a rude and awkward way to meet my family. And my aunt made rude comments about her outfit. She also had the idea that we should have the family over for New Year's to make it up to them. So yeah, everybody was a bit dramatic, but no harm was done. I think that's all the comments we need to read. I don't think we need other people's opinions on this one. He kind of tells the entire story for us here without us saying anything. But my opinion on this one is that this guy's an asshole. He knew what he was doing here. He just wanted to obviously break the rules first and then ask for an apology later, knowing what he was doing. It's obvious that he uses his cousin to get girls. If you're using the pictures to get more matches, you are obviously using it to get girls. That is not an argument. And I don't buy the fact that these guys are soulmates. It really seems like an incredibly fortunate stroke of serendipity if that is the case. I think the writing on the wall here is that there is a model on Instagram that has an OnlyFans account that earns 6 figures that would like to use this opportunity as free promo and as a way to cause drama so there is more attention to her profile so that she can make more money. As seems to be the way when you are someone that is trying to become high profile. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with that, but it is an occurrence that happens in this world. And if OP has had a streak of 2 engagements that have failed, and one of them caused this rule to come into existence, where they sold a story to TMZ, there is a pattern going on here, and I don't believe this update. I feel like it's damage control, and that's a figment of OP's reality. I feel like that's probably not what happened here. But if it did happen, more power to you, OP, and I'm surprised that they apologized to you. There was nothing that they had to apologize for, they were rightfully angry. Anyway guys, my judgment obviously is you're the a-hole for this one. I don't think the cousin is an a-hole or the family are a-holes for their reaction to all of this. Obviously people are going to take sides. But anyway, I'd love to know your comments, what your thoughts are on all these stories down below in the comments. Do let me know, because you guys have some funny stuff to say sometimes, that's for sure. If you guys enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next episode. I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. Bye.